Viva Las Vegas, boys. How good rugby league is back. It is Sunday night down here. The first two games of round one have just completed over there in Las Vegas with wins to the Raiders and the Panthers. This is our season 2025 preview. We're going to do it a little bit different to the way that we've done it in previous years. We're just doing rugby league tonight. We're going to preview every team 1 through 17. We've just gone alphabetical, so no hate. Broncos go first, West Tigers go last. It's just alphabetical.
Yeah, just alphabetical.
We're going to look at the ins and outs. We're going to look at possible starting 17s. We'll look at anything worth talking about and then give our sometimes very accurate, sometimes way off predictions for how the season will fare for each side. This is On The Esky. It's an Aussie sports podcast. We generally talk all sports. That might be cricket, that might be US sport, that might be biffs, but we like our rugby league, and we're just doing rugby league tonight. We're going live on YouTube. We'll probably clip up this. We'll probably maybe clip them up into sort of 4 teams a piece for some shorter viewing, but if you're here for the whole maybe 3 hours, buckle in and listen to the shit predictions coming through. We do have social media, Instagram, Facebook, X, the like, and if you've stumbled across us for the first time on YouTube, hit that like, hit that subscribe button. Thank you in advance. Shauno on my left,
hello.
Monk's on my right. How are we, boys? Shauno?
Yeah, good.
What's going on?
Not too much. It's been pretty quiet on my end, and I think the off-season leading into the NRL has also been pretty quiet. I was kind of trying to think of the talking points and the headlines leading into it, and I was just like, I feel so uninformed, and then I realised it's probably been the quietest off-season in memory that I can think of, probably at least the last decade. There hasn't been too many rugby league stories until a couple of Raiders boys had to have a bit of a wrestle in the elevator. And
as far as rugby league stories go, that's a pretty mundane one. A couple of inflatable baseball bats.
Yes.
Yeah, the boys must have headed straight to Vegas from the Canberra show. Classic sort of show bag memorabilia there, the inflatable bats. They looked all right today. The Canberra Raiders, we'll get to them. I think they're about 3rd in our list here.
Yeah, but there's already been calls to replace the horn with a big inflatable bat, and they blow it up for a game. So we'll see. But yeah, the off-season's been pretty quiet in comparison.
No big rule changes this year?
No, I don't think so, really.
Definitely not compared to, say, last year when we saw some kickoff rule changes. They have changed a little bit, but nothing, I don't think.
Did they tweak the medical rule around concussions? I think that's the only main one I can think of.
Yeah, and the interpretation of that is going to be interesting as it comes through this year.
Grey area, rugby league.
Yeah, plenty of grey areas. That's why I love this game.
Well, we might get stuck in our preview in a second. Before we do, I want to ask the resident physio about spines, because we're going to talk a lot about spines throughout this. What is a spine, Peppy?
Mate, in human anatomy, the spine is 7 cervical, 12 thoracic, 5 lumbar, and a few sacrum that makes up the backbone of mammals.
Footy.
Yeah, we've been talking a lot about 1, 6, 7, and 9 tonight. So the rugby league spine. It's always good to look at the spine and then maybe work backwards. I think Monks has got an article from Zero Tackle, which ranks every team 1 through 17 in terms of the strength of their spine. There's one team that stands out to all of us on the panel. We'll get to them about halfway through the show and talk a bit of spinal.
Yeah.
Spinal.
And the spine is very important because essentially all footy flows through it. That's where the structure is where they predominantly touch the ball the most, and
that's why they call it the spine.
Yes, Jimmy, the structure,
the central
part of
the
it,
central nervous system of the living, breathing footy team runs through 1, 6, 7, 9.
Yes, definitely, and usually your best players are in those positions, and your success is very much driven off how good your spine is playing. So you'll get a lot of spine chat throughout this.
Yep, and you can MRI politicians, and you generally just see. Blank where the spine is.
Blank spines, yes.
Oh, that was better in my head than the way it played out, but anyway.
I need some suits, we'll see.
Politics chat, we might have an election down here in a couple of months. No, we'll definitely save the politics chat for another episode, maybe ban that completely and get straight into the first team off the bat will be the Brisbane Broncos. Hit that button.
Kick us off.
Brisbane coming off a fairly disappointing season last year.
Slide.
They finished 12th. The curse of making a grand final and losing it to Penrith continues. So a big slide from the 2023 into the 2024 season. There's a lot to be hopeful for Bronx Nation, that's for sure. They bring in Michael Maguire, comes in, he's contracted until 2027. They'll be hoping for health, particularly in that spine of theirs. So Ezra Mann, we spoke about a bit of a quiet off-season. This was a big story. It happened way back in October, so it was pretty fresh into the off-season, but the drug driving charge, he's going to miss, was it 10 games that he's been suspended for? But they've brought in a favourite son of ours, definitely been carrying the red V over the last few seasons. Ben Hunt Dozer returns to his home state of Queensland to don the maroon and yellow of the Broncos and looking likely to start at 5'8" in replacing Ezra Mam, and then halfway through the season, one would expect maybe he slots into 9 when Ezra's good to go.
Yep. Yeah, outs there, Peppy? Talk to the team.
Yeah, no massive outs. Corey Oates retired. They lose a couple outside backs in Jordan Pereira, who retired as well. Tristan Saylor tries his luck over in the Super League. Definitely good on his day, but sitting behind Reece Walsh here is probably the move there for young Tristan Saylor.
I feel outside backs is kind of the strength for this team a little bit. They've got some guys there and they're ready to kind of go, and there's some talk about who plays centre's first wing and how that kind of works out. So I think, that's one of the reasons why they were happy to see some of these guys retire and move on.
Well, fully healthy, when they've got Cobbo, when they've got Katoni Staggs, they pick themselves. And then the rest of sort of 2 through 5 is kind of up in the air. Katoni Staggs will miss the first month at least of footy with a quad that he picked up in the trial games. It's looking like Gehamat Shibasaki and Dean Mariner to play in the centres. Jesse Arthurs will probably slot onto one wing and Cobbo on the other wing. So fully healthy when they're lining up with Staggs, Cobbo, Arthurs, and then probably Mariner. It looks pretty good in the outside back world, that's for sure. Yeah,
very interested to see how that kind of all plays out together, because they've got some raps on those young fellas. Potentially filling in spots, maybe stealing spots from, say, Arthur's there as the old head. So, we'll have to see how that kind of plays out to start the season.
Yeah, watch this space. It'll definitely be interesting once Staggs is good to go and touch wood, they don't have other outside back injuries, how they line up sort of 2 through 5 week in, week out. Worth noting that Hayes Perham, who they brought in as some fullback coverage, likely for Reece Walsh, if he stays healthy, will be missing some time through Origin. He did his ACL in the trial, so they'll miss out there, unfortunately, on some fullback cover for Reece come Origin time. So it'll be interesting who is got the one on the back with Perham. Unfortunately, been doing his rehab this year, and Tristan Saylor going over to the Super League. It'll be interesting looking at that top 30. If someone comes in, or if they slot someone back there as well. Worth noting that Cobbo and Walsh probably missing at the same time.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Like, you'd think Cobbo could slide into that spot, but if they're both playing in the Origin team, then they can't be done. So yes, we will see.
That'll be a problem for June.
Yep. Halves,
about as strong as it gets with Ben Hunt and Adam Reynolds, and then halfway through the season, as we spoke about, Mann probably comes back in with Ben Hunt going to 9. Likely to line up through the spine, Reece Walsh, Ben Hunt, Adam Reynolds, Corey Pakes is probably slated to get the 9 jersey at least through the first few months of footy. They do have Billy Walters there, predicted 17, maybe has him as a utility wearing 14. And Blake Moser as well is a hooker. I think he's in the concussion watch, maybe. I'm not really sure if he's going to be good to go. I suppose we'll find out Tuesday. And so much of this preview, we got to look at the starting 17s for 4 teams today, but we'll know so much more come Tuesday.
Yeah. I think it's just to finish on Ben Hunt and Adam Reynolds. I think it's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out, because Adam Reynolds, this team kind of, again, kind of runs through him. If he's hurt, they struggle. You've seen that in previous years. The year, when they went deep, he was healthy primarily for nearly the whole season. So I think that's a big part of it. But I think the bonus with having now Ben Hunt in there, you've got a ready-made guy that slots straight in that spot if anything happens to him. And then, if he misses the middle part of the year, then you could think might be back there. He can feel in that spot. So it wouldn't surprise me if Hunt plays a lot of 7 as well this year, depending on how that the health of Adam Reynolds, and see how we go there. But I think that's the bonus where they really tried to push hard to get him last year, Ben Hunt, sneak him up there because they needed some of that coverage because he can play 6, 7, 9 for them and do a good job. And he's an Origin player, so you definitely love to have him in your squad.
Yeah, he'll be well missed. The boys wearing the red V here on the table, man, and Monk's Dragons Nuffies. He'll be well missed. Obviously, it's been spoken about pretty much for the last 2 seasons. He was just about out the door, if you believe the reports, about 18 months ago. Stuck it out, and then granted his release to head back and finish his career up at the Bronx. It's also worth noting, we said a big slide going from 2023 into 2024. A bit of an asterisk there, given Reynolds was hurt, Walsh missed time. They were pretty banged up throughout last season. Payne Haas, who we'll get to in just a second as well, his health is going to be important.
I wonder if there was also a bit of a return to the mean there as well, because the previous years before that, they'd also been floating around outside the 8. So I wonder if, again, it's very hard to win consistency with injuries, and a lot of teams deal with it, and then that's why it's hard to make a good run. So depth is important, and I think getting good coverage in someone like Hunt really covers that. Can you confirm the captain for me? Is it going to be Adam Reynolds? Yeah, there had been some chat that it wasn't going to happen, but I think they'd confirmed recently that was going to be the case.
I think he's got the captain. I was just looking at his contract. He's contracted till the end of this season.
There you go.
And as of late Jan, Reynolds will remain Brisbane's captain in 2025. He's 34. He's a 1990 vintage, so he turns 35 this season, coming off contract
end of the same age as
year. Yeah, they're both 1990 vintage. I was going to save it for Manly, but this will make you feel old. 1980 vintages out there. There's one player left in the NRL that's born in the 80s, and that is Daly Cherry Evans. There you go. With the likes of Jordan Rapana and a few others retiring, the 89 vintages are starting to drop off.
Yeah, we're getting old.
Might just check actually that Raps is an 89. He might be he's an 89. He came to mind. There's a few as well, I think, that retired. But there's only DCE, the only 80s baby left in the NRL for 2025.
Finishes off with his pack.
Pack is strong. I think healthy pack is strong.
Yep, healthy.
Payne Haas, when he's healthy, pretty much hands down the best middle forward in the game. I think Corey Jensen will probably start in the middle with him, with Paddy Carrigan probably going to the lock. There's some chat that Paddy Carrigan might play more as a prop role. I think he's just too silky with the ball to not be wearing 13. You've got a 0 tackle predicted lineup there with Jensen at 10 and Carrigan at 13. I'd imagine that's the way that they announce him Tuesday night. Yeah,
it's pretty interesting the continue to shrinkage of props in the game and guys that can play bigger minutes. So the bigger boys are starting to be phased out a little bit more.
We're just seeing the pattern over the last 10 years, haven't we? The outside backs are getting bigger and stronger, and the props are getting leaner and fitter.
Exactly. I think they're still tall, like the length is still there, but they're just slowly dropping the weight down. Like I saw seeing Corey Holsborough, a guy the transitioning, and Tarpany for that matter, guys transitioning from second row into being more of a props for the Raiders, for example.
Well, the emphasis for the game for the last few seasons was just make it faster game. So it goes without saying that you'd probably lose a bit of weight, pick up some speed here and there.
Yeah, we're just saying it's fitness really more so than anything, isn't it? Over say the last 10, 12 years with the interchange bench, or the number of interchanges that you're allowed to make just gradually coming down, the game getting faster, all the rule changes to
line speed, size,
just to try and increase sort of fatigue rugby league, and the 115 kilo prop. There's still a few of them getting around, Junior Polo or
Josh Papali.
Nelson Asafa-Salamona. They still say hi and can wreak havoc. But the 80-minute player as well that sort of sits between 102 and 108 is becoming more and more common.
Yep.
Yeah.
Agree.
Edge back rowers Jordan Ricky and Brendan Piakura likely. And then bench, we've got here Blake Moses / Billy Walters, Kobe Hetherington, Xavier Willison, who came along a lot last year, and Ben Tikura. So that's probably how they'll get announced Tuesday.
Final talking point for them. We haven't covered it. Madge. What do you think for Madge? Because there's already been reports that the fittest they've ever been. The club's looking really good, but then also there's a couple of those sneaky mole reports that come out. They're going, the boys already hate it. They already hate the extra effort and the G-up, etc. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out because I feel looking at Madge's career, his intensity in short doses is good. I think it's the longer season where he's kind of into them always is where they struggle a little bit. And I think winning helps. It's probably the other thing.
100%.
Like at Souths, winning consistency and pushing into that, that's why they win. Going to Wests, losing constantly and having that, they didn't love it and they booted him out. New South Wales, small dose, want to win, makes a lot of sense. So, yeah.
Small dose, but we didn't really have a chance to keep him.
Yeah. But having that intensity in that small dose is like, you can eat that. But if you've got to have that week in, week out, what effect it has. So it'd be interesting to see. It is an older team, veteran leadership, veteran halves, with young talent in the backs. How that plays out because Brisbane, if they start losing a couple games, the cracks will start to appear, and by mid-season, if they're halfway, they're 500 at that point, you'll get all the headlines and the stories about the back and forth. He's lost the roster, etc., and we'll see how it goes. I think I said when he signed. That I don't think he's going to last very long. Like I think he'll see out the season, but I'm not sure if he'll see out too.
Why do you think he's not going to last it?
Because I think it's too much of a twinsel, like the mystique about the club. Like it's so star heavy. It's it's the Vegas of rugby league clubs.
It's Vegas.
Like his
Broncos
mentality is probably exactly what they need, but I just don't think they will push the players down that method. If they start kicking up a stink, they prefer to keep their star players and punt Madge for someone else.
So Brisbane's very much that team where they're always in the media, whether
of course
on field or off field.
Yep.
So it's that, can the stars of the team cop having a hard ass, I guess,
exactly.
coach?
Can they bury that ego a little bit?
Yeah.
And just focus on the footy. And winning will make it a lot easier. But if they struggle, like I said, questions will start rising out. So that's going to be my prediction for the year. I think I finished 2 or 3. I think 3. Like I think their team is more than talented enough to go down that method. But I think they they've had a lot of player coaches. I consider Kevin Walters a player coach. Whereas Madge is famously a hard ass. So we'll see how that relationship goes on for the rest of the season.
The stylistic change is massive. Like you say, Walters, who possibly, if you believe what the media had to say about him in the sort of end of the tenure, very sort of wanting to be mates with players, possibly a bit of nepotism with the young fella, and albeit they were banged up last year, whereas Madge comes in notoriously hard-nosed, old-school rugby league coach. But I think credentially, he's the best coach that they've had maybe since Wayne Bennett.
Yeah.
Coming off the series win with the Blues last year, did what he could with the cattle that he had at West Tigers, won the...
It was always a losing battle, I think, there.
Yeah, exactly right. And we've seen Benji not go much better.
They spat out Tim Sheens like nothing. So.
Yeah, exactly. One of the best coaches of all time. And Madge has got the runs on the board with a premiership win with Souths. Yeah. So for mine, they stay healthy. They win. There's not going to be any dramas. I think he sees out his contract. But yeah, it's so much of it. Probably like most teams, you lose your superstars, you're in for a bad run. They stay healthy with that spine, with Michael Maguire, with Payne Haas. I can't see them finishing outside of the top 4.
Yeah,
I've got them 4th.
Yep. Monks has got them sitting in 2.
So you've gone 3. I've gone 4. Monks has gone 2. They're $8 to win the whole thing. I think that's 3rd behind only Penrith and Storm. And they're $1.28 to make the top 8 from our friends over at Sportsbet. I think anything outside of top 4 is probably unders for the Brisbane Broncos this year.
Yeah, and I think Hunt, such a big get for them. I think he feels such a big need and a role guy and can fill holes with injuries that they've struggled with in recent years. So
definitely.
Hopefully he himself can stay healthy for the most majority of the season, which he's proved to do with the Dragons. And, I think they'll do really well.
I think that'll do us for the Broncos. We've all got them high. Expect the Broncos to be in the top 4 this season. Canberra Raiders, we've already had a sneak peek, and geez, they look good today. I think the odds have already started to swing in from being actually the spoon favourites.
Spoon favourites had them finish last. Ricky's quote today is like, if we finish 17th, it's going to be one hard comp. I just think, 1, Canberra, but 2, they're just young. We're young and unproven, I think, is there. I think you can see the talent. Health is also a big thing. I think they struggled the back half of last year without Fogarty, and I think that's going to be the big talking point. But do you want to cover the ins and outs before we get to that?
All right, so fair few to get through here. Ins, Miles Martin, Matty Nicholson, Owen Paddy, junior. We saw today get the 14. Pretty high hype around him. Ethan Sanders will be a backup half coming over from Eels.
Too.
And Sevilla Tamale, a winger who couldn't quite break in to the Dragons. Actually, pretty hard when Zach Lomax is holding down a wing last year. That's obviously changed. So Tamale comes across, and I think it's just his second career start.
Played pretty good today.
He looked pretty good. Outs are big. Nick Kotrick, Emre Gula, Jordan Rapana, James Schiller, Zach Wolford, Elliot Whitehead, to name a few.
I think 3 wingers in there. I think they had an idea, and they liked their young guys they had here. They liked bringing the guy across from the Dragons. So I think they're pretty happy with where they were sitting in the backs.
Outside backs is interesting here. They lined up today. Tamale, Tomoko, Sebastian Chris, Xavier Savage. 3 of those blokes scored doubles.
Yep.
Savage looks like the fastest bloke on the field at times. And then KO Weeks with the 1 on his back, also pretty handy player as well. We're talking via text this morning, and you look at their pack and you think their pack on paper is actually pretty strong. I'd probably rate them good to very good. And I think the question marks may be around the spine and the outside backs. But I think those question marks are really just experience-driven, maybe more so than talent. We were speaking about Xavier Savage 2 years ago when
I've still got big raps on him. Had raps on him there. I think he's uber talented, and you can see when he's got ball in hand. That's his thing. He's a dynamic runner with the football, and his issues are going to be defensively. He let one of those tries in today, but he scores a double himself. So he's not complete rocks and diamonds. You're hoping for more diamonds more regularly, getting that consistency down. But he looked like they targeted him in the high ball. That was an issue. He seemed pretty good today. So that's what he's got to work on. I think he's really good. I think Chris is really solid. People forget that Tomoko is a Kiwi, like he's an international. He started their starting centre, and he's pretty fucking good.
He's a top 10 centre in the league. And just consistent as well. Matt Timoko, his floor is quite high. His ceiling is maybe not like one of the more sort of explosive.
Yeah, he's not going to be Grant Inglis.
No one is. No one is really. But even going back to Lomax as an example, when he's on, you're like, Jesus, this is the best outside back in the comp. So Tomoko probably doesn't have that ceiling, but his floor and Lomax, I reckon, pretty similar.
He's got a very comparable game, I think, to Toto in a lot of respects. Like hard runs, big runs, carries guys for meters. Like he's a meter eater. He's maybe not going to shake and bake and beat 3 different dudes to score a try, but he'll run over a couple of blokes to get there. So.
Yep. Very, very handy centre. And Chris probably just needs to get a little bit more regular first grade time and play in the centres as well. There's periods of playing fullback last year.
I think the same for Weeks. Like, play fullback consistently because he had to be forced in the 6. So I think we'll get to it. The Evelyn, the Roon Fogarty, that's where this team kind of runs through. They have a much higher win percentage with him in the team because they are such a young team that probably needs his veteran direction to lead him around. And I think it showed today that he's very good. His kicking game's elite. And yeah, I think this team's going to be driven through him.
We were saying pre-show that he, with 7 on his back, is maybe more important to the Canberra Raiders than Nathan Cleary is to the Penrith Panthers.
Yep.
Now, I'm not saying that Jamal Fogarty is Nathan Cleary, but Panthers in recent years have actually found ways to be pretty handy when Cleary's not playing. The Raiders are not the same team when Fogarty's not playing.
They struggled with Strange and Weeks in the halves last year, and that's why they went out and got Sanders, another young halfback that has potential, and it'll be interesting to see how if he gets some time in playing in, if anything happens to Fogarty, how he goes. But yeah, I think definitely his team runs through Fogarty, and yes, he's probably like 3rd or 4th in line to play halfback for Queensland, but he's still talented enough that, you could probably fit into a role there. So I think their big thing, like we'll talk about the pack in a second, the back's really good. I think people just underrate the back so much, and you saw their attacking flair today. They've got the talent there. It's just a lack of experience. And as they build their name value, I think people start to realise this team's not going to get a wooden spoon. I think they're a fringe top 8 team. Like Raiders are usually, trying to sneak into an 8th position, and I don't think this year will be any different.
They went very close last year.
Finished 9th last year, and I think I've got them finishing 9 and probably, in the cusp of trying to sneak in into the 8.
I've got them 11, and we, full disclosure, have obviously the hindsight of
bias from today.
I've been able to.
I was always going to put him right there. That spot. That's a Raiders.
Yeah, I didn't change mine at all. I definitely didn't have him at 13 to go up to 2 spots after seeing today.
No, I've definitely had him at that spot because they feel to me like a fringe top 8 team, like they kind of always are. Right, that's Raiders history. They're super consistent on being fringe top 8 team.
Monks, you've gone even more bullish. You've snuck them into your 8 at 7.
I have
thinking there.
I can see them playing finals. No science behind it. I just think like come the end of the season, I can see them playing finals. Probably one thing that I will point on, and going back to this zero tackle sort of handbook we've been sort of reviewing before the start of the season, they have got, by all accounts, the easiest schedule of the year. In terms of turnarounds, they've got the most 7-day turnarounds, and
they've got 13 days between round 2 now.
Yep.
Yeah, that probably counts to it. And teams play twice. They've got Eels, the likes of Tigers, Titans, Dragons, Dolphins there as well. So some of those teams playing them twice probably puts you in a pretty good spot come finals time.
Yeah, strength of schedule important in a league where you play some teams once, some teams twice. The more bottom 8 teams you play in, obviously, the more chance you are of playing top 8 footy.
Yeah. And if the season plays out like last year, you got to win 12 games to be in there, and maybe 13 probably gets you in the 8. Yeah. So so you just got to be slightly above 500 and you can be in there. So I think that's important.
Bookies, you got them. This was this morning, the Vegas game. 56 to win the whole thing.
What's that?
$3.10 to get in the top 8. Is that about right?
56 and 310. So they haven't moved.
Maybe I might have amended it afterwards. Frantically writing these notes over the last.
In that list, are they last? That was the better question. Which, based on that money, I don't think so.
No, they're not.
So they would have closed based on that.
The other thing we did, as you alluded to at the top of the pod, Spine. ESPN has them ranked, this is obviously before today, 17th overall with their Spine combination.
And this is also not adjusted for injuries. So the team that they've got 16th as having the second worst Spine are Souths, and they've got Latrell and Cody named at 1 and 6. So we know that Tuesday comes around, that's not going to be the case. Cody push him to be back within the first few weeks, but that's not injury adjusted. And after watching today, I don't think they've got the worst Spine in the league by any means.
Well, we covered Weeks, Strange and Fogarty. The last person in that Spine is Tom Starling, who got the start today. Usually not a starter for them. He's a guy that comes off the bench as being slightly undersized as a hooker, and plays a bit of a role, explosive player. But he played 60, 70 minutes, and I think he came back on and they had both hookers on to end the game. And I thought he was pretty good, and he played pretty well and defended really well. Defence is going to be his question going forward, but I think he's more than a willing tackler, and I'm interested to see how he goes in that role long term. Let's see how the season plays out. Week one's a bit different, no body's not battered at all, but we'll see how the mid-season, whether he's still as explosive and going as well as he is.
He played 68 minutes today, 30 tackles, 3 missed. And I'll just get Owen Paddy's numbers. Pretty highly touted. Young Owen Paddy pretty much pushed Danny Levi out of the starting or out of the 17.
Yeah, and a reason why they let Zach
Wolford go.
Go.
Paddy only played 19 minutes off the bench, made 21 tackles, 1 miss in that. So pretty serviceable numbers there for Owen Paddy.
Yep. Finish with the pack?
Yeah, their pack, I think, is... I said good to very good. It's right up there.
Yeah. When you think about like Corey Hosborough, excellent game today. Mm-hmm. Played for Queensland 2 years ago and then had a bit of a falling out with Ricky and has probably around maybe he should play prop. And now he's, I guess, committed to it and actually was very good. They played a very heavy style offload game today too. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Tarpany, New
top
Zealand,
3.
New Zealand.
At a push, top 5 prop in the league.
Yeah. Hudson Young played for New South Wales.
Zach Hosking, who was
I think
really good last year.
Yeah, the first month he was probably the best player in the comp, and then he got hurt. So, good to see him back and see how he plays. Smithies is, Pommy, international, and pretty good in his own as well. I think he played off the bench today.
Yeah, they had Papa starting and Smithies coming off the bench.
Yeah. So I think the strength is going to be the forward pack, and if they, again, stay healthy, set the platform all year, that back line will be able to have success for a large periods.
Rounding at the bench was Owen Paddy and Josh Papali, named on the bench, started. Simi Sasagi and Ata Mariota got the last 2 spots there on the bench. Depth is interesting given how many guys come out. So Gula and Whitehead out of that pack are pretty big misses. Matty Nicholson missed out today, but he's an edge that comes over. Pommy. So looks like he's reasonable if he needs to slot in. Trey Mooney played a fair bit of first grade last year. Missed out today. CHN is in the 30. It's going to be interesting from a health perspective.
Yeah.
I've been seeing reports that he's sort of moving more to a on-field trainer kind of position now. So yeah. Depth will be interesting. Chevy Stewart, who we spoke a fair bit about last year, big raps on him. If he's got to come in and probably wear 1, if anything happens to Weeks or Weeks has got to move to 6. Got an exciting a young fullback there too. Yeah, I think. Look, it's only 1 game. We can't, don't buy your grand final tickets right now, Raiders fans. No. But they won 13 plus. They were all over the Warriors, and given that 1 game, I think a lot of people's expectations raised today of the Canberra Raiders.
Yep. Finally, can you fact check me, Jimmy? I think it's Ricky Stewart's. It's either his 12th or 14th year for the Raiders. So. One of the longest tenured coaches in the rugby league.
And he's contracted to 2029.
Yes, he's going to go around a fair bit. But it was some interesting news that a lot of these veteran guys were telling him you need to tone down the intensity a little bit. So he seemed pretty reserved today. We'll see how it goes. He was actually pretty emotional in the, not press conference, but the interview after the game with the Fox guys there that he... it was good to see the boys back up. We had a bit of a tough week with all the news and stuff, but everyone's been writing us off, which I think is good for them. Chip on the shoulder, and he's got a veteran coach will get them in the right frame of mind, and it seems the boys really like playing for him. Yeah, so that's probably
just sorting that is annoying. Raiders. Ricky Stewart, 11 seasons, and that's just in this current run.
So this is
So the only guys that have been with their current club longer are Craig Bellamy and Trent Robinson.
There you go. Yep.
So in summary, you went 9. I've gone 11. Monk's gone 7. So clearly, sort of straddling the top 8.
Yeah.
2 of us gone just out. Monks have gone just in. No one had him anywhere near the spoon.
Yeah, I think if again that 17, if it stays healthy, week in week out, they should be able to be in a lot of games and win a lot of games.
And the easiest schedule in the league certainly won't do them any harm.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the Canterbury Bulldogs. One of the surprise-ish packets of last season. They finished 6th. They won 14 games. They lost their elimination final. But good to see the Dogs back in the finals. I think it was their first final series since 2016 last season. They get Tom Amone from Lee. Marcelo Montoya returns from the Warriors. Enari Tuala from the Knights, who's injured at the moment, and Satili Tupanua, the edge, comes across from the Roosters. One big out in Josh Adokar going over to the Eels, and then a string of other guys, the likes of Hayes Perrin, we mentioned before, Jarrell Skelton, amongst others. But really the only big name value out is the Fox going over to the Eels.
Yep. Injuries?
Yeah, Jacob Kiraz, this is an interesting one. I was listening to Brian Seeney. Most people know him as the NRL physio. Does great work, obviously, from an injury perspective. He's listed as back. I think he's had some stresses in his back in the past. Brian, I think, was sort of speculating that there might be some sort of hip cartilage issue going on. I'm not sure what he's basing that off, but he's normally pretty spot on when it comes to anything injury-related in the NRL. And it's kind of TBC how long Kiraz is going to be out for. Look, if it wasn't for Zach Lomax last year, Kiraz might have been the most improved outside back in the NRL. So they'll miss him, especially with the Fox parting ways as well. And then one of their outside backs that they bring in, Enari Tuala from the Knights, is dealing with a fractured foot, I think. So he's out until round 8. Josh Curran will miss the first week through suspension. So not an extensive injury list, but a few solid starters will be missing early on.
Yep.
All right, backs likely to line up. Blake Wilson, one of the hottest guys in rugby league. Check him out if you're that way inclined. Bronson Cherry, Stephen Crichton, Marcelo Montoya. Yeah, have to do a bit of rig appreciation. NRL Roast does their top 100 hottest players, and I don't know how they how the metrics work, because Cam McInnes came in at 19. So I think there's a few sort of bits of nothing against Cam McInnes, former Dragon, looks much better now that his teeth have been fixed. But Herbie Farnworth went back to back number 1 there for hottest man in rugby league. From an outside back perspective, Stephen Crichton might be the best centre in the NRL. I don't think that's outlandish to say.
Still going to play in the centres? Or
still going to play centres, yeah.
Not going to sneak him back into one?
Yeah, well, we're looking at this same episode from last year, and for all the chat was last year that Crichton was going to play one. So I think he's still only 24. It's pretty crazy how accomplished he is at such a young age. Comes across, gets given captaincy first year.
By the year. Last year.
Yeah, I think that's a fair statement. And captaincy takes him to the final, not just off Stephen Crichton, but big part of it. We'll lead the Dogs again this season. Cherry as well, coming back off the 4 years that he had from the PEDs, looked pretty good last year. Didn't play a full season, but still got a very fast step, that's for sure. Connor Tracy likely to wear the 1. So from an outside back perspective, pretty good. I'd say healthy. One of the better lists, even within the Fox's absence. Spine, Connor Tracy, Matt Burton, Toby Sexton, Reid Marnie. Probably the question marks around Toby Sexton. We didn't know if he was going to wear the 7 last year. And he really silenced a lot of the critics. Was one of the more improved players in the NRL last year. So likely from a spine perspective, Tracy, Burton, Sexton, Marnie.
Yeah. My question on that is, did he play more as a role guy, as in it's Matt Burton's team? And yes, he might be wearing 6, but did he have a lot more of the say in the direction of the way the team played?
It's hard. He was an out-and-out halfback.
Yeah.
So just because the more talented sort of guy in your halves is wearing 6 doesn't mean it's Matt Burton's team per se. Burton obviously his kicking game is one of the best in the NRL and directionally pretty good, but you have to think he's a converted centre as well. Yeah. So the guy that's leading them around the park in attack is Toby Sexton and definitely can speak to the Dragons games. He played very, very well against the Dragons last year, and he'll be their man moving forward, provided he stays healthy.
Jimmy, can you check for me, Reid Marnie? Is there any room? I think I saw a rumours at the moment that they were looking to move him, and I wonder if I was imagining that or not.
Be a big loss if they did lose Marnie. He is pretty much the 2020s Mick Ennis, I think, is a pretty good analogy. Really likes getting under the skin of opposition players, and often, as a cheeky hooker will do, makes the other big blokes do the dumb shit more often than not.
Anything there, Jimmy?
Nothing
Nothing concrete. There probably be a few rumours floating around. He's a Queenslander as well, so there's always that chat with Queensland players playing in Sydney. You know, do they want to go back and play up there somewhere? But I think for the foreseeable future, he's a dog and a pretty good hooker at that.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's very good.
Their pack again. We speak about how improved they were last year, and you know the fact that.
Sixth.
Yeah, they finished sixth, and everyone probably had them missing the 8. Looking
we had them all finishing.
All of
right
us. Yeah, this aged well, 15th, 14th, and 16th. So missed the mark.
I think that's kind of bias on our part because I think the year before we were really happy with their buys and we put them like right around the 8,
and they let us down.
They stung us. So we're like, fuck them, we'll put them at the end. And then they've come good, so we'll have to see how it plays out.
Well, the complete rebuild under Gus Gould, I think it was a matter of time that this team found its feet.
From when Gus is there, I think they've turned over the entire roster now.
Yep, yeah. Well, there was only one guy last year. That was left. It's literally the definition of a rebuild is what they've done, and they've done a pretty good job of it by the looks. Pack is looking like Max King, Reid Marnie, Sam Hughes, Viliami Kickout, Jacob Preston, Kurt Mann. Jacob Preston, one of the better edge-back rowers getting around in the NRL, and it's early days, but wouldn't be surprised if he wears sky blue one day. Kurt Mann sort of reinvented his career a little bit as well, sort of from a fringe-ish utility kind of player at the Dragons and Knights to pick him at 13 and he'll go there and do a job. Definitely not a flashy player, but gets through his work and is a bit of a tackling machine. Benched looking likely like Jamin Salmon, Satili Tupanua, Tom Amone and Bailey Howard, maybe.
Predictions for these guys I think are interesting because I think you guys had them about where they were. I kind of feel that maybe last year was overs for them and there might be a little bit of a regression there. I don't love their spine. I think they've got some good pieces. I think the addition of Crichton last year really lifted them, but I don't think they haven't added him again. They haven't really got any ins. So I just don't see how they progress because I can't.
How they get better.
How they get better. And I kind of feel like in that spot there's a lot of teams as well that are kind of fighting. I kind of just feel like there's a bit of a slide there. So I had them in 10th. I think they might just slide out of the 8.
I think that's completely reasonable. Yeah, often when we're looking at these ins and outs,
that could be their range though. I think that could be 6 or 10. Like that could be hopefully their ceiling and floor. But yeah, I think that's kind of where you're going to end up seeing them finish.
And so often we're looking at these ins and outs and you're trying to justify, if I'm putting them up on last year, how'd they get better? And then there's some teams where the outs are just extensive and you're like, I can't see them being better than last year. So it's really all you've got to go off. And then you have these teams like the Dogs last year, like, say, Newcastle and the Warriors the year before that, sneak into the 8 and go overs what everyone expects, being able to do that. Year in, year out is hard. My feeling is, this playing group's only going to spend more and more time together. And
got that coach, got the Penrith culture.
Yep. And they don't have to have big name signings this year because they've already done, their rebuild. They've brought in Critter and Burton and Marnie and all the rest over the past 3 seasons. All that work's done, and these guys have just got to continue to play more footy together.
Maybe, again, it goes back to Sexton, and I hate to pick on him, but I just know with some guys you kind of see, they're like, their ceiling's going to be massive. They've got a lot of talent. There's a lot of growth there. I'm not sure you see that enough with him. I think he's a good player, but, again, can he take that next leap where this team then is competing deep into final series with him? I'm just not sure. And I'd love to see him be able to take that step. That'd be great for his game, for Doggies, but from what we're seeing so far, I'm just not sure if he does, and do everyone else have to kind of make in that spine make up for that kind of difference to then try to beat a Storm, beat a Penrith team.
Yeah, I think that's also reasonable. They're $17 to win the premiership, which isn't outrageous odds, but does, and you sort of singled out Sexton a little bit.
Yes,
Connor Tracy.
I was thinking the same thing.
Is serviceable, but he's also not an elite fullback.
He's
can this team?
Mitchell, Reece Walsh,
exactly.
That on their day it can just be. Turn the lights on.
Yeah, they're not premiership winning players. Exactly. They're handy, but they're not superstars of our game. Yeah. I don't see the Bulldogs winning the comp this year with that spine. And Burton and Marnie are pretty classy players.
I agree.
But maybe a little bit of a weakness there in Tracy and Sexton,
which is my reason for the slide.
You've got them in that ESPN article as well. I'd be interested to see where they've ranked this spine.
Yeah. While I bring that up, I have absolutely no confidence in my pick. I have no feelings about it. I went through my list probably 2 or 3 times. I was fairly certain with every other single team on my ladder.
This is your hardest team.
This is my hardest team.
Where do I slot them in?
It was
put them
the
here
only
place. Or 50?
It was literally the only exactly it. It was exactly it. So it was like, do you go to the top of their ceiling or to the bottom of their ceiling, to their floor?
I felt the same about the Cowboys.
Where it went.
So
there's a few teams hard to place like that.
Yeah. So their spine, according to ESPN, is 13th.
So they've got them a tick below the Eels and a tick above the Titans. Yeah, interesting. I think it's. I reckon their spine's maybe better than 13th, but I don't think it's a top 8 spine alone.
Yeah, I agree.
And the fact that your best player's a centre as well. How much can he impose himself on the game? I think he's the best centre in rugby league at the moment. I think, especially when he wears sky blue, the bloke goes to another level. But it's not like your superstar player is wearing 1, 6, 7, or 9.
Yeah.
Pack's pretty handy. It's not elite, but it's handy. We saw Sam Hughes and Max King come along a long way last year. I think they're a top 8 team. I don't think they're ready for that next step just yet.
Yeah. I want, using that Greg Inglis comparison, going back to Critter, like he was the best centre in the game, but to make that difference on the game, he switched to fullback to win a comp. So, I'll be interested to see. Again, we're super young. We'll see how it goes. But it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Maybe that's something they need to have a chat with him about at some stage.
Yeah, get involved more, get the ball more, get it out the back, more running space. But a caveat to that, Inglis was a freak. He's a freak. And I'm not sure if Critter has that kind of extra X factor that he could employ at a fullback. He's definitely a centre. Like,
definitely. He's not as explosive as GI was, but who
is?
Is really. And again, it's a lot of pressure to put on a 24-year-old centre.
Captain.
Yeah, exactly. To say,
he's already got enough. He's dealing.
Can you lead this team to top 4 and above?
Yeah, now we need to score 20-plus tries from fullback. So,
we've got him, just to reiterate, Sean had him just missing at 10. I've gone 6, Monk's gone 5. We're definitely probably looking at that sort of bottom end of the top 8 ballpark. All right, let's talk about the Sharkies. Cronulla finished 4th last year. They won 16 games. They lost a prelim. Craig Fitzgibbon returns again to coach them. They're $13 to win the whole thing and $1.40 to make the top 8. And all of us have gone top 4 for the Sharks.
Did manage to beat some top 8 sides last year, which I think helps.
Well, the knock on them for the last, post-COVID era, let's say, is, flat track bullies. Yeah, can they beat top 4 teams? Can they win in finals? So they did win a final, or they won two last year. No, they would have the week off. Anyways, they won a final. They won a final. They lost the prelim, and arguably are no worse, maybe a touch better. Sean's got him 2, I've got him 3, Monks has got him 4. Massive off-season signing with Adam Fanua-Blake. Scored a meat pie today, comes across from the Warriors. And then the outs of notes, Dale Finucane retired, Royce Hunt goes over to the Tigers. There's a few others there that probably aren't starting 17 calibre. One big injury with Sione Katoa, one of the better wingers getting around in the comp, has had a shoulder Rico. Likely to miss most of the season. Definitely not unheard of for shoulder Rico NRL sort of level player to get back within about 5, maybe 6 months. So could be right for finals. 1 through 17, Will Kennedy, Sam Stonestreet, Jesse Ramian, Kale Iro, Ronaldo Mulatalo. We'll just cap it there for now.
Yep.
Look at these outside backs. Katoa will go in for Stonestreet, you'd imagine, when healthy. We saw Iro, who's one of our players to watch last year, really locked down a starting centre position. And then Jesse Ramian, his name always gets thrown in the origin conversation, just hasn't quite made it to that level just yet. And then another guy who's kind of funnily spoken about in origin eligibility is Ronaldo Mulatalo. I think outside backs was a real strength of the Cronulla Sharks.
Yeah, I agree.
Spine, Will Kennedy, Braden Trindle, Nico Hines, Blake Brayley, also one of the better spines. Where has that ESPN article got them? I wouldn't think top 5, but I'd think top 10. And fifth.
Top 5. Yep.
Trindle's kind of sneaky good as well.
I kind of feel like most of them are sneaky good, and then Hines elevates them. That's how I kind of feel about this spine. Because I feel like they're solid, they're sneaky good, and then with Hines, he's the difference maker. And again, this club's, a lot of its success is going to be what Nico Hines comes out, what confidence he has, because I feel like he's very much a confidence player. And you see the ebbs and flows of where the Sharks are and how they play based on how confident they are and how they go. So, Fitzgibbon's their coach. He's going to have a big job, of course, year in, year out, but this year to keep pushing Nico Hines forward and getting confidence. It was kind of an interesting game today because, of course, they did play. They did lose to Penrith.
Close.
Close game. They're competitive. But again, just, they feel like that club that's just not there yet. And I'm not 100% sure what they're missing. I think Fanua Blake, adding him, is huge for them. I think they need a bit more go forward up front because, again, good platform, give Hines plenty of space, and he can build his confidence, get some run meters going, and then I think that's where they'll be the most dominant.
How about AFB's numbers in his Sharks debut? 190 metres gained, 27 tackles, only 2 missed, 6 tackle busts, a line break and a meat pie. He was the highest scoring Shark in fantasy Supercoach purposes. He's a top 3 prop middle in the game. He was a Dally M prop of the year last year. He's just going to lift that pack to another level. And whilst Finucane is a big out, he was sort of getting a bit long in the tooth anyways.
Struggled a bit with the head knocks.
Yeah, exactly. I think their pack's only stronger, really, with AFB in there. Bring it back to Nico Hines, and he's probably going to get this his whole career. Is he a good enough player to lead a side to a premiership? I think that's probably the question around him. Grew up playing 1 essentially, coming through the Storm system, through the 7 on his back, and they've been good but not great since he's come across. So,
if he looks at his counterpart here in Cleary, and you see where games he just gets the ball and he can just take over the game and can control it and absolutely dominate. You just want to see more of that out of Nico, and then also be consistent with it. And for me, I'll say to get confidence. I think a lot of it's driven off that. Once he's in a game, he's confident, he's consistent, and he can just cover side up. So you just want to see that more regularly.
And right now, as a 7, who would you rather have in your team? Cleary, Mitch Moses, probably, DCE. I'm talking about just this season, like not age isn't a factor, like just straight comparison.
There's not many. Like a healthy Adam Reynolds.
Hughes.
Yeah. Oh, forget Hughes. Everyone forgets Hughes. Let's put him 1.
The Dally 7. Yeah. So Hines is probably around about the 5-6 halfback in the league at the moment.
Yeah. You're happy you've got him, and you're disappointed you don't. So yeah, I'd
rather Nico than Adam Reynolds, I think.
Oh yeah, I would as well, purely on health and age. But as a comparable sort of talent, the guy that leads through the halfback, that's what I was trying to compare to.
Yeah. I think Moses at the origin level shown maybe he's got that next phase in his game in those big
Eels
moments.
Fans just want to see him do it. Need to do that for the Eels.
100%. But Nico's, he's probably, like I said, maybe 5th or 6th best halfback in the league. But it's a lot of pressure on him, leading this side past, what we know they can do. We know they're a top 8 side. We've all got them probably being a top 4 side. can they win a comp? I'll probably say no.
Yeah, I kind of feel for him. I don't want to say forget about the Origin arena because like if you get the call up, you want to be in there. But I think just don't think of it as a focus. Like his stint there just went so bad, and I think that it really hurt him to end that year. And I kind of think they were a bit up and down post that, and around that period, like that conversation, that chats, that's happened. Just it's like I don't want to say I'm not interested, but as in like I just want to focus on Sharks. You know, Cleary's going to be 7, whatever. I'm just going to focus on me, and if I play really well, then that those accolades and those things will come with it. So I kind of feel like you just need to shut out all that, shut out all the Sydney media. I know it's hard, and just focus on playing good Sharks 7 footy because he can be dominant when he's on.
Let's look at their pack. We already spoke highly of AFB. Joins Blake Brayley, Oregon Kaufusi, Britton Nickera, Teague Wilton, Cam McInnes is one of the better, definitely back rows, and even as a whole, one of the better packs getting around. Bench they line up today, Daniel Atkinson as the utility. Sifat Talakai has really shifted, from being origin centre to, interchange edge back rower type. He's obviously got the build. Tom Hazelton, Toby Riddoff.
I think we talked a little bit. Do we talk about it in the pod? Maybe pre-pod, the size and the change of the game with the pace and the fitness side of it. I feel for him. He's kind of the guy that big centres slowly being phased out, and it makes more sense for him to be an impact player that's got a bit of wiggle to come off the bench. Whether he plays more regular minutes in the second row going forward, time will tell. But I think that's you can see the shift for guys of that size and build getting pushed out a little bit.
It's probably the hardest position to defend in the game. You think about someone coming full tilt at you. You've got to make the right defensive read. You've only got one person on your outside. As we watch him taking a hit up here, right in the middle underneath the post,
with 4 guys on him. So
he's got tree trunk legs. I think impact minutes off the bench is going to be fine. It's actually that run's led to the Sharks' second try. So I think Fitzgibbon knows what he's doing with Talakai. They've got this young, talented centre and Ero, and they'll just continue to do what they did last year with Raymond and Ero being their starting centres and Talakai playing impact minutes off the bench.
Can't play Harper Morgan every week.
That's an in-joke for Esky listeners. Morgan Harper Morgan was fucked his name up a couple of times, that's for sure. Talakai famously giving him a bath in 2023, I believe. What do we have? We got $13 to win the whole thing, $1.40 to make the top 8. Anything else that needs to be said on the Sharks?
No, I think...
Bit of accountability from Pepe, who had him finishing 11th last season.
They did pretty right. But I can see you're thinking a bit in there, but I think they're good enough that they'll beat teams regularly and they will finish to the top of the ladder. But again, do we see them winning the comp? We need the steps.
Why can't they? Because you've got them listed 2.
Yeah. Well, I think they'll win a lot of games and make finals. I just don't think they'll win in finals. I don't know. They just miss something. They lack the... I think... the Shazaz or some shit there, the X Factor, the stuff that you want to sprinkle on top. I'm making shit up now. I feel like that's what they're missing.
It does come back to I think it's the confidence. I think in finals last year, Nico Hines, I think he missed 1 conversion in finals, and then that kind of was their downfall for the game. I think he missed another 1 or 2 conversions after that. So I don't know, they get in their head a little bit. Great regular season team. Pressure of finals.
I feel that great regular season team. But when it matters,
if they're going up against a Melbourne or a Penrith, every day of the week you're picking them, I suppose.
But today was kind of evident of it. So.
Yeah, I suppose that's it as well. Where they finish in the top 8 and who they verse in that first 1-2 weeks of finals probably makes a big difference as well.
Well, if they could get a home, if they finish 2 and they get a home final the first week and then they're straight through to a prelim, obviously still have to win the big games. We talk about that in the NFL a fair bit. But look, they could certainly make a run deep. I just think all of us are probably in the same boat saying that we all think they'll be a good footy team. We probably don't think they can win the comp this year. All right, let's talk about the Dolphins. They finished 10th last year, 11-13. The big story from a coaching perspective is Wayne Bennett going back to coach South Sydney after 2 years there with the expansion franchise. Christian Wolf comes in to coach the Dolphins. Not a wealth of experience behind Christian Wolf. He's only had the 2 games coaching the Newcastle Knights back in 2019 from an NRL perspective as an interim, but a lot of success over in the Super League with St Helens. Was winning at 76% over there with them, and it's coached Tonga as well. Yeah. So
I think, and he's been Wayne's right-hand man since day dot for the Finns, so he's been groomed throughout that period.
Yeah, they've had a succession plan the whole time. Yeah, it's not like he was thinking 2 years ago, oh, geez, I wonder what my job will be in 2025. I think he's had a pretty good idea as to what his sort of mid-2020s will be looking like.
Ins and outs?
So a few to get through. Max Fine comes in from the Dragons. Cooley Finifiaki, edge from the Cowboys. Daniel Saifidi, big get from the Knights. Junior Tupou, winger from the Tigers. They're all sort of there or thereabouts for first grade. Yep. Outs, a big one in Jesse Bromwich retiring. And then the GOAT Edric Lee also hanging them up. Anthony Milford goes back to the Q Cup. Tavita Pangai Jr. goes over to play in France. Ewan Aitken goes over to South. Tessie Newey goes to the UK. Valte Fade has been lighting it up in Japanese rugby. A lot of outs, and most notably, the super coach Wayne Bennett probably being the biggest out.
Injuries?
Yeah, outside of South, maybe the most banged up team going into the start of the season. Tom Flegler, again, shout out to Brian Sini and his work, is battling a really nasty injury.
Is there concerns for career?
Yeah, it's a nerve injury. So your neck has the nerves at the bottom part of the neck coming down through into what's called the brachial plexus in the shoulder. He had like a nerve decompression surgery. Yep. Only a few of those have been done in the NRL. And the thing with nerves is they're erratic compared to muscle, bone, tendon, ligament, where we've got these sort of structured return to play sort of paradigms. You don't really get that with nerves. The same person can have the same procedure, or the same people can have neural pain. Someone gets better very quickly, someone is really slow, and it's obviously something that you don't want to fuck around with.
Yeah, exactly. As well. Risk and end up with any polarity.
So there has been talk about career. He's listed as round 14. He's definitely going to miss the first half of the season, and then it might be, let's see how the Dolphins are going.
Yeah.
Jack Bostock did his MCL in one of the funnier sort of mechanisms you'll ever see in the trials. Under the high ball, sort of maybe a bit of a lazy foot coming out from him to defend himself from the tacklers coming in. Landed back down on that MCL, done it. He's out for the first month of footy. Dan Saifidi, a low-grade hammy, shouldn't be too far off. And poor Trey Fuller, back end of last year, did his ACL after really being electric when Hammer was playing Origin. Hamisa Tabuai-Fidow will have the one on his back, and then I think the outside back's pretty solid. Jermaine Asako, Jake Avarillo probably playing in the centres. Herbie Farnworth, not only hottest man in league, was a Daly M centre of the year last year too. And then the other wing will be filling in for Bostock the first month, either Fiona or Tupou, one of their recruits. Recruited quite well there from an injury perspective. I think outside back, pretty strong, especially when you've got Hammer wearing one.
Yeah, and him and Asako, I mean, 40 tries between the two of them last year?
Something crazy.
Yeah, they were scoring at will last year. So I think they started they're one of those front-end teams that then fade towards the end of the year. So I think they'll start really well and see how they go through the origin period into the end of the season.
I don't know if they'll start really well. I think they've had a lot of outs. I think those injuries that we spoke about, essentially 3 starters that won't be there for the start, and Flegler, Bostock and Saifidi. On paper, not the worst team, but also losing the super coach, unproven guy comes in. I think there's a lot of question marks.
I think that's going to be the big question is what's the difference without Wayne there? Has Wayne been carrying them so they maintain that 12th sort of spot? I think I kind of still feel that's sort of where this team is. But they've had all their veterans kind of come in and they're now starting to roll some of them out. What that kind of, these young fellas that are in those spots now need to pick it up and take over.
Spine isn't bad. Hammer, Cody Nikorima, maybe 6. Jake Averillo, there's some chat also maybe playing 6. It'll be an interesting one, Teamless Tuesday. Isaiah Katoa has got that 7 locked down.
Yep.
You remember?
Very talented.
Yeah, the start of last year where Sean O'Sullivan had come across from the Penrith system and led them to a little bit of early success.
One of them. And then did he peck or something?
And then Katoa's just taken that bull by the horns. And there was some chat when Cleary went down last year that he was maybe ready for New South Wales Origin. And Jeremy Marshall-King, the 9. I think from a spine perspective, not horrendous.
Yeah. For Katoa, just you see the talents there. Needs to take another step, take this team, and keep progressing.
He's still
he'd be like 21.
21, I want to say. He's still young as I'm just getting his
20
age here. I've got 21 in my head. He's
as of a couple of weeks
ago. As of a few weeks ago, he's just turned 21. So the bloke's just celebrated his 21st birthday, and that is like. It's just so rugby league. You think about how young these guys are. Look at how old Hammer is. I think he's 23, 24. Like the superstars, obviously set themselves apart at a young age. And it's a lot of pressure for a bloke that's, just having his 21st. You think back to how far ago that was.
But that's what we want to see from him. Put his name up there with the superstars. Be another massive superstar out of Queensland.
Are you a tier 1 halfback?
Exactly. Go back to that previous conversation. Like, can you put yourself in that top 5 and be highly desirable? And I think he's got enough talent behind him to be able to attack well and score a lot of points.
How old's Hammer?
23. Yeah.
Fucking crazy, man.
So my concern for them is their platform, though. I think their backs. I think the halves are good enough to they can score a lot of points. I'm just not sure the old fellas can set them the platform that you'd hope to expect.
Yeah, their pack is one of the older getting around. Mark Nichols, Jeremy Marshall-King, Josh Kerr.
Yep.
Felice Kaufusi, Fini Fiaki comes in from the Cowboys. Tom Gilbert coming off an ACL.
It's pretty good before he got hurt, though.
Yeah, so old pack, experienced pack. The go forward is going to be interesting, Finn Diesel taking souls last year. Felice Kaufusi still looks like he's pretty good on his day. Yep. But he's also got, missed tackles and errors in him. Tom Gilbert coming off an ACL, fairly big question mark there. And Josh Kerr and Mark Nichols, the starting front rowers, definitely serviceable guys, but not high-end middle forwards.
I do like that they have Kenny Bromwich and Ray Stone coming off the bench. I think that they're very, very serviceable to come in and play some good minutes.
Yeah, they'll probably join Max Plath and Connolly Lemieux. So, look, 1 through 17, I don't think there's any real big massive weaknesses. Who plays 6 is probably going to be a massive question. And how they go in the absence of Wayne Bennett. Unfortunately, most of us, and I think the odds kind of reflect, no one's got them really pushing for the top 8.
No, I've got him at 14. You've got him at 16. And Mark's got him 14 as well. We hope for some improvement.
It'd be great for the NRL and be great for old Redcliffe fans, but all this new wave of fans that are come across and
especially for expansion chat. We've just been looking at Vegas and that looks to have been like a really good success. And then we've already got the PNG agreement that's happening. That's 2028. There'll be another team, but whether another team, most likely Western Australia, and if they can sort that out. Want to happen beforehand, but giving time frames we've got now, they've got to announce that now, and
it'd be unlikely you'd think
start
before
next
2028.
year. So but whether they join 2027 and then straight back on, but if the league wants to keep growing, they need successful expansion teams. There's no point adding expansion teams and they're getting spoons constantly. So
which they haven't.
They've been competitive, but we don't want them to slide. We want them to, I guess, stay where they are or maybe grow. And I wonder if their growth comes with Katoa also growing.
Well, growth for them would be top 8.
Yep.
Because they've been fringed, first few years. They were in the top 8, through the first half of their inaugural season, which was incredible.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, all of us have got them maybe just being sort of bottom 4, maybe pushing for the 8 at the ceiling. I can't see them making the 8.
No. They'd have to have some magic in an all-time season, and whether that's someone like we're going to pick out on Katoa because it makes the most sense because we've seen how good Hammer has been.
Yeah.
And we kind of Cody Nikorima is kind of a known commodity. You're picking Katoa, he's got to be the one that elevates the rest of the team.
$61 to win the premiership, $3.25 to make the top 8. I don't hate that. You know, this year I think that out of all the years that we've been running this podcast, is maybe the 4th year that we've done a league preview. Yep. I think picking the Spooner this year is the hardest.
Yep.
Yeah, and
I think the wealth has been spread around a bit.
Yeah, granted, the West Tigers were looking fairly ordinary for a few years there. Yeah. I don't think any of us got the Tigers getting the spoon this year. The bottom end, it seems like the floor's coming up in the NRL. The mid is just cracked wide open, and like really the only sort of strong teams are on paper. The teams that everyone if you think they're definitely coming top 4, is probably only Melbourne and Penrith.
Yep,
I feel.
Yeah, that's fair.
Tend to agree.
Anything else on the Finns?
Yeah, so I guess for me, we talk about ins and outs. Obviously, the big out is Bennett. Can't get past that. That being said, I'm going to be hyperbolic. Christian Worth, we did say unproven in the NRL.
How many comps did he win in England?
Yeah, that's it. Three of the 4 that St Helens win in a row was under Christian Wolf.
Yep.
So
it's massive, and he's had the 2 years tryout essentially. So we're saying facts is that he's not an experienced NRL coach, but also facts. The bloke is obviously a good coach. There's just a lot of unknowns, I suppose, coming through. And the outs, like we spoke about before, Jesse Bromwich, you're talking about a 300 gamer, Ewan Aiken, very serviceable type player, and just a lot of outs, in some of the lesser named guys.
But I kind of feel like that was their first lot of recruits as well. Like they're now transitioning out of, we've got some of the old guys in to kick us off, and now we've coached up the young fellas and we're kind of transitioning the team. So for the Finns, this is maybe a transition year, and then they grow next year, and then maybe they're pushing deep into the 8 next year. But we'll have, time will tell. We'll have to see.
It's a good segue into the Gold Coast Titans.
Yeah,
I've got the Titans just above the Finns at 15th. You boys got the Titans getting the spoon. So run us through. I'll quickly start with ins and outs, and then you guys can let us know why you think they'll be the worst team.
How many ins have they got?
Regan Campbell-Gillard, good in. That's the only in. Maybe that's only of note. Go on Zero Tackle, see if there's anyone else there. But
there's probably a few others.
No, I'm fairly sure that might be their only in. We did look at these pretty seriously. Outs, name value not massive, but some serviceable guys. Tanner Boyd and Aaron Clark both go over to the Warriors. Aaron Schupp, who's played a little bit of first grade, goes to Manly. Keenan Palacia goes to Leeds. Zero Tackle, that's their only in?
That's their only in, yep. Zero Tackle.
He's coming off a shoulder. It'll be interesting Tuesday night if he's named. I don't think he's far away. But also...
He played in a trial game, didn't he?
Yeah.
A couple minutes? Not a huge amount, but he played a little bit.
I think it's like if he's not playing next weekend, it's like round 2.
Okay.
Like it's not,
And NRL's got him round 2.
Yep.
They don't play the opener, so they have their bye week.
Yeah.
Yes.
You are right. You're right.
Yeah,
technicality.
Titans
the NRL doesn't love them. So
Titans have the bye next weekend, so bear that in mind.
Easy win.
Do have some guys coming off injuries or missing time through injuries. So Kieran Foran, biceps tear. Against the Dolphins in trial. Pretty rare to tear your biceps and it not be a full rupture. See if you can find anything.
I think they've said it's going to be most of the year, so probably that kind of leads. Yeah,
I've got a return date around 9.
Okay, maybe you did a partial. So just see what you can find there if you needed surgery. My feeling would be if it's around 9, he didn't need surgery. A bloke that did have surgery and has been rehabbing that knee and has played in trials and will have the weight of this team on his shoulders is Tino Fa'asuamaleaui.
Is he captain?
Yep, captain coming back and likely to play with 13 on his back. Before we get to the pack, let's talk about their backs. Keanu Keeney with the 1 on his back. Lofi Khan Pereira, we highlighted him last year in this same episode. Wasn't a red hot take, but he went on to be the top try scorer in the NRL. Philip Sammy, Brian Kelly, Jojo Fafita, outside backs, middle of the pack, I would say.
Yeah.
Brian Kelly does a job. He's like not, again, superstar type.
Yeah, Sammy played
player.
at Origin, so...
Yeah, they're not bad.
They're not bad.
centers, but they're also not world beaters.
Yeah, exactly.
And Kelly definitely has got a few errors in his game there. So I would say sort of middle of the pack in terms of outside backs, maybe fading down. Yep. I think the big talking point for them, and this is probably going to be a big reason why you've got them getting the spoon, is this spine. Individually, I think they're reasonable players. Keanu Keeney, AJ Brimson, Jaden Campbell, Sam Verrills.
Yep.
The problem is, do they have an out-and-out 7? My thinking to that would probably be no. So much of this is going to ride on this halves pairing of Brimson and Campbell. How do you see it playing out?
Well, I think my point is, 3 of the 4 positions of spine positions are covered with fullbacks. So I think AJ Brimson's kind of proven he's not really a half. They're so much better at fullback, and they're a better team when he plays fullback. In that if he's in the squad, him at fullback is where they seem their best. And losing Kieran Foran, I think, is the biggest out for mine in this team. Jaden Campbell, again, a bit undersized, makes a lot more sense as a guy there. It's a bit shifty, he can run around. He, to me, again, feels more like a fullback than he does a 7 or a 6. So I just feel like they're playing those two fullbacks out of position in the halves, and I just feel like they're going to struggle. And I feel like we've seen them struggle already playing in those positions. So if they're going to have to play a lot of the season like that, depending on Kieran Foran's injury, and Mark's will give us an update in a second, I just think they're going to struggle. They're not going to win a lot of games.
What did you find on Foz?
Yeah, not too much. Just confirmed sustained bicep tear.
Had surgery though.
Has had surgery. Yeah.
So round 9 might be optimistic there, but I think if you look back to Mitch Moses last year, similar sort of return. Regardless, it's going to be the first 2 months of footy without the experience.
Side of that is Moses is 10 years younger than Foran is. So
I think Foz as well. I think Brian Sini was saying he's had like 18 surgeries in his career or something. Like it's
What vintage is Foran? Now that I think about it,
he must be a 1990 or 1991 maybe.
Because him and DCE kind of started very similar time.
Manly sort of era.
See
if you can see Foz. I reckon he's a 1990 vintage.
1990.
There we go.
Very close. So and that's a big out for them as well.
Massive, just from veterans, direction and leadership and structure and being an out and out half.
Yep. Yeah, and I think their pack has good name value, but I kind of feel they kind of a bit up and down. And I feel like they were more down last year because they missed Big Tino a lot. So, they're going to need a big season out of their captain, and the rest of their pack kind of feeds off his energy. So we'll have to see how that goes.
Name value is good. Mo Fotuaika, Sam Verrills, Regan Campbell-Gillard, Bo Firma, David Fafita, Tino Fa'asuamaleaui away. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4 guys that have played Origin, and then Verrills and Firma are handy. I think your sort of take here, and forgive me if I'm putting words in your mouth, Tino coming off the ACL, RCG, definitely not the player that he used to be. Fafita...
up and down.
Consistency probably is a concern for you with David Fafita. Anything else that I've missed there?
No, I think you've hit it right on the head. You can see the name value is there. Are we going to get the best out of them? We have to see what it is. And like I said, I think a lot of it's going to be on Tino kind of setting the tone. Yeah, he might have 13 on his back, but he's going to have some big hit-ups as well for his style of play, and we'll see how that kind of plays out. But coming off an ACL for a big fella is always going to be tough.
Remember before how we were talking about teams that were hard to place? You had the Dogs hard to place. I think you said the Cowboys. And I was thinking about it in my head. I was like, I feel like the Eels for me are hard to place.
Yep.
These guys for me are hard to place because I look at that. I look at the name value, and we spoke about in the group chat. Keanu Keeney was a better than serviceable. Like he was a good fullback.
Yep.
On their day, they'd go out and smack the Broncos up. The more I look at it, the more I'm like, no, this isn't like I've got them 15th. Like they should be better than that. But it maybe just goes back to that point before of the spine for one, but also the bottom is so hard to place this year.
Yeah. That too, definitely.
I think that's it. Like some of these teams, it definitely feels like we've probably placed them at their floor and some at their ceiling. And I was like just trying to figure out somewhere in between. Just it is very difficult.
Yeah.
Wait till we get to my spoon team because there's one thing that's really driving that, and it's kind of out of their control. But
I just to finish on them, I think they've got solid backs, got solid forward pack. That connection, the spine there, the big elephant in the room being the two fullbacks playing in the halves, I think is the challenge for me.
you know what else is hard here? Just looking at their others, and maybe this is me not being enough of a league nuffy. I don't know heaps of names here in the guys outside the starting 17s. Jacob Alec Venicky, Jalen de Groot, Ryan Foran, Tony Francis, Carter Gordon, Ben Leo, Harley Smith-Shields, we know from the Raiders, Ryder Williams. Depth might be a real concern with the Titans.
Yeah, it's quite interesting because, again, they're ins, and yes, they've got Des Hasler there who's a good coach, but you know, he famously was cooking the books. Well, not cooking the books, but
legend.
Backloading contracts at Manly. Manly, so that his guys were getting paid, but the cap essentially fucked them after a couple of years because they had all these guys on massive deals that they couldn't pay them. So, not cooking the books, as in cheating, but as management. Doing the thing where it was like, oh, we'll pay you, but it'll end, and that's how he kept all his talent around, but. It doesn't seem like he's got access to the checkbook is what I'm getting at. And they haven't gone out and been gone, hey, we'll offer you, you pay on this year, but you'll get big dollars, in the subsequent years of the deal kind of thing. Whether they've reined it in and they're very tight on their spending because I'd be interested to see where the salary cap is actually allocated because, they don't have that huge name that's probably taken all their dollars compared to some of the other
But they paid their forwards big.
Yeah.
So Tino and Fafita.
True.
Both getting big money. And I suppose, if you want elite forwards, then maybe, you're going to have to go with unproven guys in the spine, and that's kind of the way that they've gone.
Yeah, that's how they're constructed it. We'll see.
They're $56 to win the whole thing. Have you got the top 8 list handy there? They about $3? Yeah, right on $3 to make the top 8. So all of us...
the Dragons at the bottom of that.
Yeah, Dragons. They do it every year, man. Every year. And 2 years ago, we just missed out, but we didn't get a spoon. Proud history, that's for sure. In summation, Titans, maybe some questions around 6 and 7. Is Jaden Campbell able to cement himself as a NRL caliber 7? And the health of their forwards and consistency of their forwards. I think on paper, there's no way they're the worst team in the comp, but unfortunately, both of the boys either side of me reckon they might be there or thereabouts for the spoon, and I don't have them much better at 15th. Time will tell. Gold Coast Titans, all 10 of your fans, if you're listening.
I think, to that as well. The only reason I got them as the spoon is because the one team that did get the spoon last year, I probably can't see getting it again. So
Tigers have to be better. They have to be.
We say that every year.
All right, speaking of Des Hasler, let's go to his former team. Manly, they finished 7th last year. They won 13 games. Anthony Seibold returns. All of us have got him top 8. Sean's got him 4th. I've got him 5th. Monkey's got him 6th. No massive ins, no massive outs. Let's run through them. Sio Takiao comes over from Catalans. Jazz Tevanga, old stalwart from the Warriors, comes across. Outs, Jamie Humphries, likely to get the 7 job at South. Carl Lawton goes to Cowboys. Brad Parker retires. Jackson Paulo goes to Cowboys. Josh Schuster goes to South. And Aaron Woods, I swear he's been retired for 4 years. Apparently retired officially last year. Lachlan Croker will miss the first month-ish of footy with a knee concern. That probably opens the door for Jake Simpkin to start at hooker. Outside backs, pretty strong. Tommy Turbo with the 1. Jason Saab, Ruben Garrick, Tolu Kola, Tommy Talau had a breakout season last year on the Sting. Thoughts there? 1 through 5. Obviously, the big talking point is Turbo and his health. Yeah,
the Turbo, the triple Turbo, it will be to start the year. I think that's going to be the talking point, how that plays out. We know their win percentage is significantly higher with him in the team, and you can tell why with the talent that he possesses. That's the reason why we can see them probably being close to a top 4 team, if not sneaking into it. To move into the half conversation, still got DC there. I don't think you can expect any more or less from him. He's super consistent with what you expect. Yep. He has that game. I feel like that's unlocked Luke Brooks a little bit, and a better talent around him as well. Luke Brooks probably had a career year last year, I feel, leaving the Tiger system. So I I think they've got the right connection to feed that back line to be able to score a decent amount of points.
That ESPN article's got their spine ranked at 3, so it's only got the Broncos and Storm ahead of them.
Well, finish on that. What do you think of Simpkin, number 9?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. He came across to the club last year, I believe. I think he's a Tigers man originally. It's interesting because Lachlan Croker had kind of locked down a 9 spot. This may just be Simpkin starts with a 9 on his back for the first 3 rounds and then maybe drops back to the bench when Croker's good to go. 9's an interesting position for him because Gordon Chan Kun Tong is likely to get the 14, and he's sort of been one to watch over the last 2 seasons. Yeah, so they've got depth, but they've got no one that's elite at 9. Imagine if they did, because Turbo Brooks DCE, if they had like a top 5 hooker, they would have the best spine in the Melbourne maybe.
Melbourne says a lot, but yeah,
you could probably bump them up above the Broncos. I
agree.
Pack's not bad either. Taniela Paseka, Jake Simpkin, Josh Aliuwe, Hamole Olakawatu, Ben Turbo, Jake Turbo.
Yeah, I just their second row was excellent. I'm just not sure of compared to some of the other front rows we've just talked about. Yeah, maybe that's the weakness in this squad.
Yeah, it's likely to be Paseka, Aliuwe, maybe Sipley. Might get the starting job there.
It wouldn't surprise me though we see Jake play a bit of prop as well.
Yeah, can do a job when he needs to. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think they're both serviceable guys, but neither are a Payne Haas or an AFB or a Fisher Harris. But yeah, I think overall it's definitely a top half pack, I would think, looking at it on paper. And a lot of that off the back row.
The back row is very good.
Olakawatu looks like one of the best edges in the game. Made his Origin debut last year. Absolutely destructive, often 80-minute player.
And we know what you get out of Jake, and Ben kind of just seems to be growing year.
In terms of growth last year, Ben Turbo going from he might be a good sort of super coach fantasy type pickup to, he's like a starting edge back rower in the league.
That family's talented. So
something in the genes.
Yeah.
Depth, we spoke about the Titans not having heaps of depth just before. Depth is good at Manly. You got guys that maybe will be in that starting 17 come Tuesday night, but there's guys that we haven't mentioned. I'll go through the bench. The bench that I've got listed here, maybe Chan Kum Tong, Sipley, Takiao, Jazz Tavanga. Then that would be missing Nathan Brown, Ethan Bullimore, Aaron Shoop comes across, Corey Waddell. Like they've got a lot of forward depth in particular. Outside back may be a bit of a weakness if a couple go down.
Because
Jake Arthur, I think.
Yeah.
And that's obviously going to be a big question mark if a half goes down.
Yeah, especially DCE. And you always slightly concerned with the age, being the oldest man in football. So, but he seems to have had a pretty good career and being able to dodge any of those bigger shots.
He's never had a big injury that I can remember.
Way to put a curse on that.
That's a good point. Half depth may be an issue.
Has he said that he's no Origin for him?
You have a look.
Check that. I wonder if he's said he's Manly focused.
You're the Queensland man.
I vaguely feel like he might have said something, but I also don't remember.
It might be a mid-May decision for him. Has now cleared up any conjecture around his state of origin playing for future. Provided I'm playing him at a high enough level to be picked, I'm keen to get back in there and win the series with Queensland. There is no announcement there about retirement. I think that's fair enough. The bloke's a competitor. He lives and breathes maroon, whether it be in his club footy or whether it be, slotting straight into that 7 jersey after JT retired. And he's won a fair few of them. I think finishing his career with a Maroons win would be definitely on his bucket list.
Yeah, I agree.
I do remember that chatter around last year, but as well. So that's probably where that had come into your mind. But he's obviously on the record as saying, I'm there if I'm getting picked.
I think at this stage, depends on, say, what Sam Walsh does. If he has a great start for the year. Walker, yes.
He won't be that because he's ACL.
Yeah, that's true. He's still coming back from that.
So he, at a push will be back for the second half of the year. I don't think he's playing Origin.
Yeah, that's right, because he had ACL so late in the end of the season.
Yeah, he'd been playing a good part of last season and maybe the season before with a partially torn.
Yeah.
And I think it's like a 50%. You're pretty much a ticking time bomb. You remember the mechanism? Remember I was like, nah, not an ACL mechanism.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh shit, he's got a partial.
Yeah.
I was like, that doesn't need to be an ACL mechanism. It just looked like textbook MCL. Unfortunately, that was that ACL that was already just hanging on. It went, and it was in their last game of the season.
Yes. Yeah. So
Or it might have been second last. It was yeah.
No, I think it was their final, because they had like 6 guys get injured in that final game. Remember?
Yeah, Smith,
Cheese,
Cheese, and Walker both.
They all got.
Yeah. Anyways,
Well, we'll talk to the rest of it in a minute. To finish on Manly, coach. I just not a huge fan of good old Seabold, but I feel that if there's any kind of down on this squad, it would be, can their coach push them over the edge?
in terms of some of the high-end coaches, he doesn't really have the runs on the board per se.
I think he took like a Souths team that was kind of already built for him, took them deep, and then turned that into a cushy job, a high-paying job with the Broncos, and then they went and struggled. Yeah. So he's only at 500 there with Manly, and that's probably a lot of that plays into how many turbos they've got playing for him. Specifically the big one, the big Tom Turbo. But yeah, I'm just not a huge fan. I don't think he's of the same ilk of some of the other guys in the.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. And granted, that Broncos job that he got is in the pre-Ezra, Reece Walsh, Adam Reynolds era, and they were pretty much cellar dwellers for a little bit of it there. His record is pretty much, this is maybe a testament to what you're saying. I don't think you're saying he's a bad coach, but I don't think you're saying he's an elite coach either. His winning percentage is 50% with the Manly Sea Eagles.
Yeah.
But we try and look at this holistically and look at not just 1 through 17, but the bloke that sits up there in the coach's box. And if that's the thing that's going to differentiate you from a top 4 or top 6 team to can you beat Melbourne and Penrith? The big one in the first week of October. Yeah, maybe coaching is a good point to bring up.
Yeah, I agree.
The other thing with DCE. I mentioned it a couple of times in the podcast, oldest guy in rugby league, wants to go again in State of Origin perhaps this year. He's 89 vintage, which means he'll turn 37 next season. If they don't win the whole thing with him playing 7 this year, the future at Manly may be a little bit different.
What's he?
Do you reckon they make a call on him? Or
I was going to ask you, what's his contract?
Find the contract because we should know. Yeah, good question. I feel like he has probably, been a one-club man, done everything with that club, probably deserves a 1 year play on and if you stay healthy kind of deal.
Yeah.
But we also know the NRL's a business and they might be looking at, who's our 7 of the future. And again, we're getting ahead of ourselves. We're sort of getting into 2026 territory already.
Yeah, I think if they're pushing for a top 4 spot, like they're not going to be worried about future at this stage, but if they're struggling and they're fighting for the 8th, then that's where you start the youth movement. Maybe we start playing some of the younger blokes.
I'm not saying it's happening this year. What I'm saying is, if it doesn't happen this year, what does it look like in 2026?
Yeah,
he is off contract at the end of this season.
Yeah, very interesting.
So it's a bit of a do or die moment for Sea Eagles fans. All right, let's talk about the Melbourne Storm. They finished first on the table last year. They did lose the grand final. Maybe there was a few blades of grass in that decision. Craig Bellamy is the only coach that's comes off contract at the end of this year. So he's the only guy in brackets in these notes with 2025 next to him. The longest tenured coach by a long way.
Sign an extension last year for 1 year.
Yep, I think that's what's happened this year. So,
and that's how Riles then ended up at Eels.
Yeah, because all the talk was, if Bellamy's gone, Riles will inherit that job.
Yeah. And Billy said I didn't want it, so he's focused on Queensland. So it'll be interesting.
They're $3.85 to win the whole thing. They're $1.08 to make the top 8. Look, if you load it up on that, I don't think you're losing money, but you're not getting paid out much. This is the most boring thing that maybe we've done in this podcast, but it's hard to argue against it. Predictions, first.
I think there's an interesting talking point on that, though, because in previous years, and you've got the last 3 there, we haven't been able to put them at the one spot because we've had such a dominant, say, Penrith team, I think, that's owned that spot over that time frame. So I think that, individually, we've universally put them there, kind of makes me think that we're all kind of thinking that there's, maybe a little bit of a Penrith slide coming up. And I think health-wise, you look at the spine, there isn't a better one in football. So I think that's the reason why we've all put him at 1.
That ESPN article has them ranked number 1. They are the best spine in football when healthy, that's for sure. Pappenhausen, Munster, Hughes, Grant doesn't get much better than Origin caliber players and a Dally M winner. There is obviously question marks, though, when it comes to health. Pappenhausen has had the horror run of health with the smashed up patella in 2023 and then the broken fibula. And there's even some chat that he may not be ready to go round 1.
Can you check on Munster? Because I know post-season he had the both hips looked at. Had surgery on both of them. Had
surgery there. So it's an interesting one. I remember talking about this in pre-season last year. There was chat about adductor recurrence, so doing muscular type stuff. I think he had labral clean-outs of both of his hips. Yeah. So it wasn't just the soft tissue. Obviously, soft tissue can happen secondary to some joint problems, but it's a pretty big type surgery to come back from. Cam Munster's hip surgeries involve repair of labral cartilage tears and removal of bone spurs, presumably both hips.
Yeah. He said on his body, on the boy's body, that he'd get both hips done in the off-season. So we'll see whether that frees him up or does he look like he needs an A-frame. So hopefully he hasn't lost all his movement and his steps and he still has a big range of movement. And, on his day, arguably the best player in the league. So, and sit next to him with the Dally M winner and Hughes, there's no doubt that this team is built to win football games. And I know we talk about Melbourne system and how everyone else around them is no names. I think there's enough names in that squad as well that they're not just built on a couple of immortals and are going to go deep.
Well, yeah, we're looking at their squad last year and look, we didn't think they would be chumps. We had them listed as 3, 3, and 4. Yeah. But we're like, can this...
Pat was hurt.
Pat was hurt. And can the spine carry some lesser-known guys? And if you're listening, I'm doing the air quotes. And now coming off the year that they had last year with Eli Katoa being a Dally M edge-back rower, Trent Liero making the Queensland squad, didn't get on. And then their big in Stefano Utoikamano coming across from the Tigers, who himself is an Origin caliber middle.
Yep. Really well.
Yeah, with Christian Welsh retiring, that's... pretty much an upgrade, really, in Welsh, being injury hampered at the back end of his career with Achilles and concussions and the like, and you bring in pretty much a young stud to replace him.
Yeah, we'll go through the ins and outs.
So not heaps. So Stefano, the big in, Moses Leo, a winger, comes across from rugby. Outs, Chris Lewis retired, Aaron Penne, Ramus Smith, young Tonu Mapua and Christian Welch. So really the only probably starting 17 guys there, possibly Ramus Smith and Christian Welch. And again, they're kind of asterisks next to him anyway. In terms of, had they been healthy, would they have been in this starting 17? Probably not.
Yeah. Monks has just shared the Munster talking to Anthony Minicello about diet and all things coming back from a big surgery in off-season to be as dominant. So see how that kind of plays out. It's a little bit of an interesting read there.
I think Munster's approach to the game probably changed a bit as well, like a fair bit of,
Well, he's 30 now.
He's father.
Now married, got kids.
Yeah, did big stints of last season off
Lost
the piss.
4 kilos.
Yeah.
So that professionalism, probably playing into his game now, which is what happens when you're, not electric 21-year-old anymore.
Exactly.
You probably have to do the crossing of the T's and dotting of the I's, and I'm sure he's rehab the house down, and he'll be doing everything he can to try and be playing pain free.
Yep. Playing week 1.
He should be playing week 1. We'll find out in about 48 hours. Let's run through the outside backs: Will Warbrick, Jack Howarth, Nick Meaney, Xavier Coates. We all know how good Coates is. Warbrick was one of the most improved wingers in the comp last year.
Meaney's been really good for them too. So
I think in their centres. Definitely not the best centre pairing in the league, but far from the worst either. They're just sort of hardworking guys, low ceiling, high floor, not heaps of errors in them. Just get through their work.
Yeah, classic Craig Bellamy.
Yeah, Bellamy products.
Yeah, and they're going to get plenty of good serviceable ball out of that spine. So yeah, I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, I think if you're playing outside Munster and Hughes, you're going to go okay in attack. We spoke about the spine already ad nauseum. The pack is one of the better ones getting around too. Josh King, Harry Grant, Stefano, Sean Blore, Eli Katoa, Trent Liero is likely the way that they'll line up. And then the bench looking like Tyron Wishart, Tui Kamikamitha, Lazarus Vailupo, and maybe Alec McDonald, that last 17. What have they got? They got Christian Welsh still there. Welsh, yeah. I think McDonald is maybe the last guy to come in. Depth is interesting as well. Name value, not massive, but
it's a Storm.
It's a Storm system. We saw Suafalago come in last year when Pappy was hurt. And you're like, fuck, who's this guy? You know, not a household name by any imagination. He brained it. Jonah Pezzett was good when he come in when Hughes and Munster have missed time. I think they're going to be fine from a depth perspective.
Where did they finish in the last year?
First.
Yeah, and that was, and they barely had Hughes and Munster play together. Like they were in and out. Well, Munster being the big
Munster mostly. I think it was getting games with Pappy and Munster together was pretty rare. Last season.
Yeah, they again consistently have all four, and then it's going to be hard to see them lose a game that they go match up against the team.
Dude, it's fucked how good this team is. Like last year was like the first year.
I think it's fucked how good the team was, and now the transition into this other team and it's just as good. Well, to go from Billy, Cronk, and Slater, it's Smith. Sorry, I said Billy twice. He's just so good and so cute.
You can mention it twice.
And then just change it into Pappy, Munster, and Hughes and Harry Grant. You're just like, fuck, how can someone get so lucky? And I guess the consistent bloke and all that is Burley Aiken. Yes, he's got the 1 year contract. Yes, we'll see what he does. But I think as long as he wants to keep coaching, they'll keep giving him deals. So, and I think the boys will be more than happy playing for him. They seems to really like that system and the guys down there.
And the recruiting as well. We're talking about Jerome Hughes winning the Dally M. He's played like 4 games of NRL in 4 years, like banging around different clubs. All of them. You think of those blokes I just mentioned, like all of them had the same story. They were just guys that were on the outer. Like Billy Slater was too small. They considered him a jockey. He was never really going to play fullback. Fuck it, we'll give him a go. Same with Cronk. Never saw him as half. Cameron's too old. The man in all of this. Yeah.
Billy, he's a modern day genius.
Where's their weaknesses? If we want to pick on anything, maybe
name value outside of the spine,
Warbrick Howarth meaning coach, that's not the biggest name value. Yeah. Outside backs.
And he's probably a product of being in Melbourne as well. You don't get all the media beat up about how awesome you are. I think that's probably the main thing. But you can't really underlook them and. I think they'll win probably 20 games this year.
20? 20 is a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. You don't see them, again, healthy through the origin period. That's going to be the challenge.
They're winning 16 plus.
Yeah, but they're going to win more games than they lose. Yeah. Melbourne good. Fuck.
$3.85 is about as short as you can get for a premiership favourite as well. Is that what they're sitting at today? $3.85. And Penrith, after winning, are still $4.50. Yep. It's going to be up to the other teams to show that they can beat the Melbourne Storm, and we may come down the stretch much like it was last year, where by about August we're like, this is looking like a Melbourne Penrith final. I suppose the question mark will be Penrith, and we'll get to them just in a minute. Yep. Newcastle Knights, they finished 8th last year. They lost their elimination final. They finished 500, 12 wins, 12 losses. Adam O'Brien returns. $56 to win the whole thing, $3.25 to make the top 8. None of us have got him in the 8, but none of us have got him bottom 4. Sean and Monks, you've gone 11. I've gone 9th. And we're pretty bang on last year as well. You guys had 10th, I had 8th. They finished 8th, and that was maybe their ceiling last year.
They're kind of like the Raiders. They're that team that kind of floats around the top 8. They've got talent. I think the big thing is they've got Ponga on his day. He can just win a football game outright. So I think that kind of fits where they are. I think the question mark for them is going to be, how do they improve? How do they become a consistent top 8 team and actually go deep into the finals? That I just can't see where they're getting it from at this stage. Because outside of Ponga, I'm just not confident in the rest of the spine, which is also a reason why they're going so hard after Dylan Brown at the moment and offering him the 10-year deal of almost $14 million. So I think they're kind of saying that, hey, we need someone. It's probably a bit annoying for Eels fans that they're talking about this deal before the season's already started for next year. But hey, that's
the
rugby
way
league.
that league works. Yeah. Their spine is Ponga. Fletcher Sharp's likely to get the 6. We saw him play fullback a little bit last year. Looks pretty handy. Tyson Gamble, Phoenix Crossland. Crossland, an interesting story. It's by all accounts will get the starting 9 with maybe Jaden Brayley wearing the 14. Brayley's been injury hampered the last few years, but Crossland has sort of developed himself into a starting hooker in the NRL. Not massive ins and outs. Ins, Matt Arthur, James Schiller, Francis Manuela, and Sitani Takayamo. And then outs, David Armstrong, Jed Cartwright, Miles Martin, Fletcher Myers, Daniel Saifidi, and Ari Tiala, 2 of the bigger name outs. Schiller is probably going to get a starting spot on one of those stings, with Greg Marzio on the other, Dane Gagai, Bradman Best, one of the better outside backs lists getting around.
Yeah. They say no injuries at the moment, seem healthy. Best hammy, good.
Yeah, I think he did his hammy 5 times last season. So, young guy, relies on his explosiveness. Good pod with him.
They're not small hammies, that's for sure.
No, they're big hammies. One's covered in tattoo. Good listen with him and Denon Kemp on Bloke in a Bar from the off-season. He was kind of alluded to the fact that he felt a little bit rushed coming back last year, and that may have led to some recurrent soft tissue. He's an absolute Ferrari when he's on. So hopefully for his sake and for Knights fans' sakes, no recurrent soft tissue injuries for him this year.
Blues fans' sake as well.
I think they've given up on Ponga playing any other position besides fullback with the recurrent concussion issues. And I think
not just that, like the bloke's one of the best fullbacks in the game. Like the 6 experiment just...
I think you just put him
water under a bridge. It's not his best position.
Yeah, put him in the firing line. I feel too much as well last year defensively. Yeah, and I think playing fullback he protects himself a bit better. And the back half of last year kind of reflected that. Yeah, he's still one of the best ones in the comp. And him and Walsh will be fighting out probably for Queensland's number 1 spot if Hammer doesn't have a massive year. So plenty of fullbacks going around.
Their pack is definitely serviceable. Jacob Saifidi, Phoenix Crossland, Leo Thompson, Dylan Lucas, Kai Pearce-Paul, Tyson Frizzell, by all accounts, will play 13 this year. I think that makes sense. Him sort of towards the back end of his career, get him in the middle. He's certainly big enough to be playing in the middle. And then they've got these 2 young stud edge back rowers in Dylan Lucas and Kai Pearce-Paul they can do.
Not a bad combination of age and youth there. Jacob's not getting any younger either.
I don't hate him on paper. Jaden Brayley, Jack Hetherington, Adam Elliott, Brodie Jones is their bench. Obviously, Ponga is the superstar, and then you sprinkle in a few high-end players like a Bradman Best, like a Tyson Frizzell. It's not a bad team.
I don't think they're in as bad a spot as where the Titans are as a comparison, but I think Again, that connection between the forward pack and the backs is where I'm just not 100% sure. Like, I feel Gamble is serviceable, but I think he's more a 6 than he is a 7. So I would want to see how Sharp kind of goes. And again, this is the reason why they're hot after Dylan Brown, because they want someone to be in that role, to kind of be that connection. Because I think they've got a lot of the other pieces in place. It's just, they need someone to really stand up in the halves for them to be able to unlock that really good back line and hopefully work off a good platform for the front row.
I kind of like the Titans as a comparison, like some question marks about the halves. You probably, if you're scoring this, you maybe have the name value of the Titans pack just ahead, the name value of the outside backs for the Knights just ahead.
Yep.
I suppose then the thing that splits those two teams in the direct comparison is they've got a Kalen Ponga and Keanu Keeney is a good fullback, don't get me wrong, but he's not KP.
No, exactly.
Yeah, I think they'll be pushing for that top 8, but just missing out.
They snuck into the 8 last year, just over the Raiders. But I think they'll be in that ballpark again.
The Warriors, up the wires, pandemonium, sort of slipped a little bit last year. They were pretty disappointing coming off that red-hot 2023 season. They finished 13th, 9 wins, a draw, and 14 losses, and they were very underwhelming today there in Las Vegas. Andrew Webster returns. He's contracted for another few years. Premiership odds about 51 to win the whole thing, $3.25 to make the top 8. All of us have them missing. Ins, Tanner Boyd and Aaron Clark come across from the Titans. The big in is James Fisher-Harris, goes back to his country of origin from the Panthers. And
is that a like for the big out being Aiden Flynn-Blake? Or is it just a slight downgrade?
It's about as close as you can get, I think. I think AFB probably the best prop in the game. Payne Haas maybe has something to say about it. James Fisher-Harris is probably a top 5 prop. Yep. So it's not like a downgrade per se.
Yes.
But yeah, I think AFB is probably the best middle in the game. He goes obviously to the Sharks. Tohu Harris, Sean Johnson retire. Marcelo Montoya goes to Dogs. Jazz Tavanga goes to Manly. It's a pretty solid list of outs there.
Injury?
DWZ, Darren Watine-Zalesniak, he had a pretty nasty fracture dislocation of his wrist. That would have been operated on already. He would probably be immobilised at the moment. Yeah. Hard as well. Rugby league players, lots of contact. You want your wrist to be 110% before you're coming back, so likely to miss the first 3 months.
What do we have our predictions at? Because I think I had them 16th, right near the end. You had them 13th. Monks had them 15th.
Yeah, so
I feel like, and I kind of saw it today, we saw this story last year with how injured Sean Johnson was and how kind of up and down they were as a squad. And I feel like that's going to be their problem of the year. This post-Sean Johnson era, they need to learn. I really like Metcalf. I've got big raps on him, but I feel like he's much more of a natural running 5'8" than he is a game managing 7, and has the experience that Sean Johnson does. Not many blokes do, and he's a big out. So I kind of feel like what we saw last year with them sliding is kind of what we're going to see this year. Unfortunately, I just they're going to have to solidify again that middles, and they're probably another team that's got a good pack, good backs, just lacking that glue in the middle to really put them off. But I do like their talent in the middles a bit more than some of those other guys. In the middle being the halves.
Yeah, it's interesting. We'll get to the spine in just a second. When we do the old ins and outs, have they gotten better? Have they gotten worse? I don't think there's any way you can argue that they've gotten better.
Yeah.
Like Fisher-Harris comes in, that's a massive get.
They had a few pushes there, but I think Sean Johnson's the elephant in the room.
Massive elephant in the room. And the experience with Tohu Harris going as well.
Exactly.
Outside back, C&K, Tane Tuapiki, who played a bit of one last year when C&K was out. Ali Leatua, Adam Pompey, and RTS make up their outside backs. And then 6 and 7 today was Chanel Harris, Tavita, Luke Metcalf. There's a couple guys missing out there, most notably Tamare Martin missed out. Wade Egan will have the 9. Where's the ESPN article got them in terms of spines? Because C&K is pretty good. Wade Egan's actually a very serviceable 9. Like you say, Metcalf, yet to be proven at 7. Looked ordinary today. It's
one game.
It's one game. We're not going to judge him on that. I think everyone knows he's talented.
He's talented. He's young. We'll have to see. But just
defensively needs to get a bit better, and a few errors today too.
Yeah.
I'm
just not sure if he's more of a 6. We'll see. I hope he's not ends up playing out of position, and he seems so much more dominant runner. But I guess most people are going to be more dominant running off of Sean Johnson short ball. So we'll have to see how that plays out. Big shoes to fill, which is unfortunate for him.
Pack's pretty good. James Fisher-Harris, Wade Egan, Mitch Barnett, Kurt Capewell, Murata Niokore, Aaron Clark. You got a bloke that made his Origin debut last year in Barnett. You've got a bloke in Capewell who's played Origin. You've got a New Zealand international coming over. Niokore also played for New Zealand. Pretty serviceable pack.
Yeah. The Raiders walked all over him.
They did.
So we'll time will tell. Whether it's just a bit of a shock, being over there in Vegas.
It's also one game.
It's also one game. Yeah, go back to playing in Auckland and they'll be right.
Bench, Dylan Walker, Jackson Ford, Dimitri Viamonga, and Leka Halasima. Today was the bench. There's a few other guys that missed out: Bunty Afoa, Rocco Berry, Edward Cossey, Freddie Lussick, to name a few.
I think we said it. I just kind of saw this picture last year, and I just feel like they're in a bit of a slide until something clicks. We'll have to see. Their hope this year, I think, is that it clicks. Like, I hate to say it, like, they're going to throw the year away, but if they can get something to click in that spine, then that's when they'll get the momentum and make a run.
What do you think their ceiling is? Obviously, they want to play finals, but maybe that's not realistic.
I think we've covered
it. 10?
No, I think 13. It's where they finished last year.
Yeah.
I think you at 13 and me at 16 is probably in that range is where they're going to be, unfortunately. Based off what what I thought without Sean Johnson, and then what I saw today,
just anything that's not bottom four maybe is their ceiling.
Exactly. If they can avoid the bottom four, I think they'll be very happy. And I think, if they can get Luke Metcalf into a serviceable halfback, he's playing really good football, and they're in more games. Maybe they lose some of them, but they're in more games. They're competitive. They've got something to build around and go forward with. I think that would be a really big success for them this year.
I like it. Anything to add, mate?
No, not really. I suppose in terms of the order, they are 12th to be the grand final winner. So
who's Sportsbet got below them? Raiders after today.
Yeah.
Titans, Knights, Dolphins, Dragons. Yeah. Look, if they made the top 8, it would maybe be a minor miracle, and maybe just aiming not to finish bottom 4 is probably reasonable.
Yep.
Let's keep rolling. North Queensland Cowboys finished 5th last year. Todd Payton's contracted for another 2 years. They're $23 to win the whole thing, about $2 to make the top 8, which is interesting because I've got them sneaking in at 8th. Monks has got them just missing at 9. Sean, you've got a little low on 13.
I'm feeling a little slide, and we'll get into that in a minute. But, again, that's probably their range. They're one of those teams that'll be fighting for an 8th position with those other ones we've already talked about. There'll be a competition for who can win games and be above 500 to sneak into that.
We were all unders on them last year, so they finished 5th. We all had them.
We had them overs the year before.
Yeah, we see this.
They don't love us. They don't love us.
Swing.
Well, we've seen an overcorrection, haven't we? We did it with the Dogs, and clearly we went the other way with the Cowboys. So, we remember who's hurt us. Okay, ins and outs. In John Bateman, Edge comes over from the Tigers. Raiders fans will be very familiar with him. Carl Lawton comes across from Manly. Kai O'Donnell and Jackson Paulo. Outs, Kyle Felt, Cooley Finifuaki, Jack Gazeski, Val Holmes, Chad Townsend, some pretty big names in terms of outs. Although all older, the big name guys older at least.
Yes, yeah. Yep. Injuries?
Tom Chester, Helium Lukey, both ACLs. Neither of that's particularly new. So, they've had time to prepare for life without those guys. All the best to them with their rehabs. Outside back, Scotty Drink, Braden Burns, Zach Labart, Viliami Veilua, and Murray Taulagi. Taulagi, very good, Origin, Australian level winger. Maybe name value, the other three, maybe not quite there.
No.
And Scotty Drinkwater showing time and time again, he's on the upper echelon of at the fullback position.
It'll be interesting because they've lost their two old statesmen in the back line there, Felton and Holmes. Yeah, so how that kind of fits in. And Murray Taulagi is I think he's I feel like he's at his ceiling. Like he's kind of he's really solid. He's good, fringe Origin, could play Origin, but he just doesn't have that next X Factor kind of step.
He's not Xavier Coates from an X Factor perspective.
Exactly, yeah. But he's
a very good winger.
He's very good. Lost something fell down there.
Don't worry.
We roll on. I think it was a can.
As long as it was empty.
Empty can.
Yeah.
I think they're kind of going backwards there, and then to follow flow into the halves, I think Clifford's got big raps on him, young fella. Really needs to prove himself as a 7. See how he goes, and I'm just not sure if how did they finish last year? Because did Townsend play the whole season for them?
No, he didn't play the whole season, and the elephant in the room with him leaving is a kid called Tom Duffy. I actually don't even know if Clifford's going to get named at 7 come Tuesday night. Most predicted best 17s have got Jake Clifford wearing the 7, but they've got
famously stole him from the Knights and brought him up.
Yeah, they've got this kid, Tom Duffy, who is 21, 22, going on 22, out of Townsville, been pretty good in the trials. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets named with the 7 or is in there within the first sort of month, 6 weeks if Clifford doesn't prove it.
Yeah, because I feel like for Tom Deedon, he needs a strong 7 next to him. When he's most successful, I think he's got a good 7 next to him. Yeah, and he can play his more natural running game. Being a smaller guy, getting in and around those forwards and really picking on them. I think that's where he's best at as a 6. So,
100%. He might be the best running 6 in the game.
Yes, yeah. So to do that, you need a good halfback, and they're going to have 2 young fellas potentially fighting over that spot. I think Reece Robinson and Drinkwater to round out that spine is very good. I'm assuming their spine's probably going to be rated quite nicely.
Where you got him in that article?
But yeah, I just worry a little bit about the halfback position, and it's kind of why I've got them on the slide a little bit.
ESPN's got them having the 7th best spine. They do have Jake Clifford wearing the 7 with Scotty Drink, Tom Dearden, and Reece Robson. I think, outside of 7, it's an elite spine. It's just going to be a bit of a prove-it year for either Jake Clifford or Tom Duffy. Going in the forwards, Griffin Neame, Jason Taumalolo, Reece Robson, aforementioned, John Bateman, Jeremiah Nene, Ruben Cotter. That's one of the best back rows in the game. Yeah,
I think another team that's got a great back row and maybe another great forward pack. I know Big JT is probably, he's in the back end of his career. He's not the 80-minute wrecking ball he was.
His knees are cooked.
Yeah, so, you're getting as much as you can out of him at this point. Maybe more a 60-minute player or even less depending on how you want to manage him going forward. That back line's pretty good.
He's also coming back from a Liz Frank as well.
Did he have surgery for that?
Sure.
Usually, if it's a rupture, he would have. Payne Haas had the Liz Frank.
Tough for big men.
Actually, no. Latrell had a Liz Frank sprain, so he didn't have it operated on. But pretty much any ruptures will be a surgical fix.
I know they brought in Bateman. I kind of feel Bateman's got
around Christmas.
Yeah, sorry. I feel like Bateman gets too much raps for one good season at Raiders.
Because was Dally M edge back.
He was, but
2019-ish.
And then kind of fell off the following year. Had the whole contract, things blow up. Then went away, came back to Tigers, and really wasn't the same guy. I wonder if the league kind of moved on from where he was successful. The league, we can see the league changing, and what was making him successful, everyone else kind of already doing now. And I just feel like the Tigers kind of were happy to let him go because he was on big money, and they weren't really getting return on him. And then he's gone to the Cowboys, and I don't want to shit on him and say he's going to struggle again, but I just feel like he's not the same guy from 6 years ago when he won that medal.
I think that's completely reasonable. We've all looked at that back row and gone, Bateman, Nene, Cotter, elite. There's a big question mark around John Bateman. It was 2019-2020 when he was at the Raiders. He only played 34 games for the Raiders, and that's when he was at the pinnacle of his career. Since then, he's had a couple of seasons over there in Wigan at Super League, and he only played 32 games for the Tigers, including a stint at Warrington. So he's had regular footy in him, but he just hasn't had 2019 Raiders John Bateman in him. And I think we've maybe got that bias being down here in the nation's capital and remembering that and being like, he's kind of talk of the town kind of stuff in those years. Maybe he's past that best of his footy. He's 31 too as well. He's not a spring chicken. Goes up into
struggled a bit with injuries around the ankles and that as well.
And a hard place to play for a POM, I think, would be playing in Townsville, particularly at the start of the year. So lots of question marks, but at his best, definitely
he's definitely talented.
Player.
But I just wonder if that's past him and. I think playing in that pack, though, will be also more beneficial for him.
Yeah, he doesn't have to be the star in that pack.
Exactly.
He just has to do a job.
It just has to be a role. Yeah, exactly. Do a job, be a role guy, and see how that plays out.
Just confirming, Monks did get Taumalolo up, had Liz Frank repair December. So that's actually not that far removed. He should be fine for round 1. But, big men and that pesky ligament in the midfoot. We just see it all too common these days, to the point where it's sort of come into the vernacular of the layman, the old the Liz Frank ligament.
Interesting, their bench might be one of the biggest, and maybe is it too big? there's going to be interesting to see how
this predicted lineup. We've got Carl Lawton, Jordan McLean, Sam McIntyre, Cohen Hess. Those boys are some big boppers. Like McLean would be around about one of the biggest players in the game. Sam McIntyre, not a huge middle, but he's a middle forward.
Yeah.
And Cohen Hess probably like a smaller middle. So yeah, a lot of size there. And yeah, like we're talking about, that sort of changing role to maybe some of the smaller guys, but pretty formidable in terms of a bench.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how they kind of rotate in there because they kind of played a lot of front row last year as well. So, going towards this, like, hey, we actually need to be a bit more undersized because we were too big and we need to get more pace in the game. So
his legs are crazy. Bit of a funny story. Bumped into him about this time last year. They were doing their pre-season camp in Kiama. We had a wedding there in February. And I'm not known for having the thickest
those twigs
legs on the table here. And I went up and got a photo and whatnot with them. And this bloke legs in the person are so big because he's not that tall. He doesn't look like he's big enough to play middle in the NRL. Like standing next to him or on telly. But then up close and personal. My God, those things got their own postcode.
Tree trunks,
yeah, absolute trunks. But yeah, I think pack wise, pretty good.
Very strong.
No superstar like props now that JT's towards the back end of his year, but serviceable guys. Griffin Neame, criminally underrated, just not a superstar. Jordan McLean, Sam McIntyre, Cohen Hess, like they're all pretty formidable.
Yeah, got some good size to help rotate through that pack. So we'll see.
Yeah, Tuesday will be interesting. Do we see Tom Duffy, or are they going to give Jake Clifford a month, 6 weeks, prove it kind of type scenario?
Yeah, I think they've got a lot of talent there, but yeah, again, they're one of those teams that think fighting for the 8. We'll have to see, and they'll need something to click in the halves. We'll talk about it. Like, if you don't have a halfback, you're looking for one. So yeah, you hate to be one of those teams that you're just like, hey, we're trying to find something to prove to have our halfback in place.
Paramatta, a bit disappointing last year. They finished 15th.
Finally get a preview.
Yeah, that's right. Jason Riles comes across. He's been given a 4-year contract. He's obviously come through the Melbourne system, right-hand man to bellyache over the last few years. So he's been in good stables, that's for sure, learning from one of the best to ever do it. Lots of ins and outs. All right, I'll try and get through the main ones. Josh Addo-Carr in. Isaiah Iongi, likely to play fullback, comes across from Penrith. Zach Lomax comes across from the Dragons. Me and Monk's pretty sad to see him leave. Joash Papali'i comes across from the Dogs, not to be confused with Josh Papali'i. Jack Williams comes across from the Sharks. Outs, Matt Arthur, Dejan Arce, Regan Campbell-Gillard. Clint Gutherson's a big out. Morgan Harper, big out for you, Sean. Big fan of Morgan Harper. Ethan Sanders, we spoke about before, will be back up at the Raiders. Blaze Tailungi, a lot of people had him playing 6. Jack Cole got that role for Penrith. Micah Sevo goes over to the Super League. This is why, for me, they're maybe the hardest team to place. Me and you've gone pretty bullish on them at 6 and 7, which would be massive ups from last year. A healthy Mitch Moses probably would help that.
I think that's going to be the thing. Healthy spine. If they can have those two blokes playing together, that being Brown and Moses, they're should go back to where they were the previous year and be competing, in the 8 and pushing high into the, maybe top 4s out of realms of possibilities. But if they're going to be there and thereabouts, I reckon.
I don't know if it is. Hey, I've got them 7th. I feel like ceiling is top 4. They're only a few years removed from a grand final.
Yep.
Arguably, if Brown and Moses stay healthy, and then you get guys like Lomax and Addo-Carr coming into your outside backs, it's really just can your pack hold up?
Yep. And if they can get New South Wales Mitch Moses, then that'll really help push them. So I think they've got enough in the back line. The question marks then's become their pack, and they've got I guess a second rower kind of playing as a prop, and then a massive human being playing as a front rower that it's not going to do huge minutes for you. So you kind of see how, and they've got a bit of name value kind of floating around there, Madison and Cartwright, but they're an odd team.
Hard to place.
In the pack, yeah.
Hard to place. Like I said, 6 for you, 7 for me. Mugs, you gone 12. Same sort of thing, like just hard to place.
Yeah. Finished 15th last year.
Yeah, that's right. So from last year, like you're in the ballpark.
Still up, yeah. I mean,
Nathan Brownie's job. So
yeah, that's it. New coach, new system, few new players. So is the chemistry going to be there right off the bat? I mean, you obviously do have Mitch Moses there. Yeah, I don't know. It's just where they fed into the ladder for me. It's just, yeah.
Too many question marks.
Yeah, that's it. And yeah, again, like those above and just below were okay for me. So they just sort of slotted in there. Yeah.
Massive question mark going to be on the bloke wearing 1. Isaiah Iongi comes in from the Panthers system. He's one of the most highly sought after guys from a super coach fantasy perspective this year. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what he can do. Not many people, unless you're a real diehard, going through Penrith sort of lower grades, would have seen him play a heap of footy.
Yep.
Outside back strong. So fully healthy, they're probably Sean Russell, Will Penasini, Zach Lomax, the Fox, and Bailey Simonson probably going to get named on Tuesday night. Yeah. Dill Brown, Mitch Moses, healthy. Maybe the best half pairing in the comp. Munster and Hughes maybe say hi.
Yep.
But, geez, they're up there.
Yeah,
Be interesting to see that article, that ESPN article, because then the question marks around Iongi and Brendan Hands, who really is only going to be in his first full year with the keys at hooker. It's going to be interesting. Got him 12th. I think that's unders, really. I think with that half combination.
The halves are very good, but of course the big question marks at fullback and hooker. We'll have to see how that kind of plays out.
Pack is Joe Offahengawi, Brendan Hands, Junior Paulo, Sean Lane, Bryce Cartwright, Jermaine Hopgood. Pretty solid
a lot of
pack.
value there.
Yeah, and then Joey Lussick may play 9, may be coming off the bench. Ryan Madison, Kelma Toilangi, Jack Williams, perhaps, is what we'll see Tuesday night. I think, it might be a bit broken record, but it's important to state. Dill Brown, Mitch Moses barely played together last year.
Yep.
Mitch Moses had the Jones fracture in his foot. That's a 5th met, like a pinky toe fracture, and a ruptured biceps in Origin to boot.
Yep.
So 2 nasty injuries to come off. But like you alluded to before, if we get Mitch Moses,
New South Wales, Mitch Moses
level player, and he stays healthy and strings that together week in, week out, there's no reason why they can't be a top 4 team.
Yep.
Any concerns? Like anything you're looking at there, going like around the? Like I feel like pretty strong. I think
they're solid across the park. Yeah. We'll have to see whether Riles, as his first year in coaching, whether he's up to the challenge. I think coming from the Bellamy system is probably going to keep him in some decent stead. But I also can't think of recent memory of guys that have come through the Bellamy, tree. Have actually been super successful. So we'll have to see. But it'll be interesting to see how it goes.
And we mentioned it before, but we're talking about the Eels. We should talk about it now. A lot of media speculation in the last sort of 48 hours about the money that might get offered to Dylan Brown. I've got a Fox League headline here. Crazy $14 million contract, detail revealed with Knights short price favourites to land the Eels star.
I think he's got a similar deal from one other club as well. And there's probably a third one. And then, of course, the Eels could also try to match it. So he's I said it before, if you don't have halves, you're awfully looking for him. And they definitely get paid well. So, Brown being, decently young and a pretty talented individual is, highly sought after. Big loss, I think, for the Eels. But, they just also, I think, on the back of this, re-signed Mitch Moses so he couldn't get to the open market, lock him up for another 5 years, I think his deal was, so they'll at least be able to keep one of the 2 boys.
Yeah, important to keep Mitch Moses, but also if they're going to have to try and match some of these deals, the Knights front runners there. Yeah, it's a lot to be spending on 2 players. So does the back end of your top 30 miss out? Yes, essentially they'll have to try and get some juniors.
And then it raises the question marks like, yes, Brown's going to be a professional a year, but then also if you know you go to the Knights for the next 10 years, you know, how committed and how hard you're going to go out for the Eels now.
It's something that gives me the shits with the
it's
way
very
NRL
rugby league
works.
thing.
Yeah, it should.
I'm negotiating a contract for next year when this season hasn't even started, I think, for me, is wild.
Yeah, like you should be able to do it in season, but like the fact that this is the biggest talking point perhaps for the weekend, at least in player movements, definitely the biggest talking point. When there's a whole Paramatta season to be played, it's a bit annoying. But anyways, that is the game that we know and love. Andrew Webster, veteran journalist, not Warriors coach, said he'd be stunned if Dylan Brown turns the Knights offer down. Interesting. I'll be stunned if Dylan Brown doesn't end up in Newcastle, life-changing contract. Well, is it real as well?
Yeah.
You know, 10 years, 13, 14 million.
Well, usually they leak details as part of the negotiation process. So there's probably, something in this ballpark, and someone's leaked it to either...
his agent.
Yeah, his agent to go, hey, who else is interested and wants to pay more? Or, you know, they're saying, hey, we're already offering you this. You're not probably, you know, other clubs might go and go, hey, he's not worth that. Trying to go negotiate it down. So there's probably something in that ballpark, but yeah, time will tell. The interesting thing was, I'm pretty sure the Dolphins offered Munster a massive deal in those kind of similar numbers. He turned it down. So, you know, it's not out of the realm of possibility. Yep. If you're happy and you're in a good spot, you maybe take a little bit of cash to be happy. But for the Knights, like, that's the missing piece. Yeah, it looks like the missing piece.
That'd be dangerous if they land him. Should we talk Penrith?
Let's go for it.
Won the GF, 4-peat, greatest team of the modern era, whatever other superlatives you want to throw about the Penrith Panthers, you probably wouldn't be hyperbolic. Ivan Cleary returns. He's contracted for another couple of years. We've all got him top 8. I've gone most bullish at 2. Monks has gone 3. Sean's got him all the way down the ladder at 5. Isaiah Papali'i returns. He comes over from the West Tigers. Blaze Talangi comes across from the Eels. A lot of outs, a lot of big outs. James Fisher-Harris, Isaiah Iongi, we're just talking about. Jerome Luai, Taylor May released, Tyrone Peachy, Sunia Turuva. So 1, 2, 3, 4.
Jack Cleary in there.
Jack Cleary as well.
I think that's an interesting out, of course, going to New Zealand. And, you know, there's a lot of connection there with the family and how they play together. So you definitely a young fellow that was looking for a starting and actually for New Zealand, you know, struggling in the halves.
Yeah, we're just
might get an opportunity earlier than you'd expect.
He's way younger than Nathan as well. Like he's like 18, 19.
Yes. It's his first year. He's be very young, but the family goes all right. So they might want to start him earlier than you'd expect. But I think the big outs there is, you know, Fisher-Harris, Luai. And I guess Peachy was very serviceable for them over the time. You know, good 14, but
utility.
Yeah, and then another May brother. So.
All right, let's look at their spine. Dylan Edwards 1. Jack Cole got the gig over Blaze Talangi with the 6.
Did Toto play in this game?
Toto did not.
Yeah,
so Hammy. People were saying I shouldn't be dancing in promos if he's got a bad hammy. Blah blah blah. Anyways, he shouldn't be far off. And Liam Henry missed out as well with a shoulder. But spine is Edwards, Jack Cole, Nathan Cleary, Mitch Kenny. I think ESPN had that spine ranked at 2.
Yep.
Or 3. Did they have the Broncos higher?
Yes. It was...
Oh, 4. Whoa.
Yeah, it was... Oh, Manly
they had Manly at 3, Broncos 2, Melbourne at 1. So I suppose Jack Cole, not proven yet.
That's the big question mark, yeah.
And Mitch Kenny's a serviceable 9, but maybe not a top 5-9 in the NRL. Outside backs today, name value, probably the weakest that they've been in this Penrith dynasty.
Yep.
Casey McLean, Isaac Tungo, Luke Garner, Paul Alamotti. Tungo's elite. I think he'll be fine. Garner can play as an edge, can play as centre. Paul Alamotti, normally in the centres, pushed out to a wing. He's pretty handy, come over from the Dogs. So I think it'll be McLean that misses out when Toto's good to go. I think he got actually he's in a protocol as well. Casey McLean, so
tucked his head a little bit and
so he may be missing regardless.
Yeah, he didn't look good after that one, so maybe a week or 2 for him.
Pack looks like Moses Leota, Mitch Kenny, Lindsay Smith, Scott Sorensen, Liam Martin, Isaiah Yeo, still very strong.
Yeah, great pack. And Papalili coming off the bench too.
Yeah, that's a pretty good player to get back off the bench. Dane Laurie was their utility, Matt Eisenhuth, and Luron Patea. Don't know too much about him. Was wearing 17. A few big question marks. I suppose the big one is what does this team look like without Jerome Luai?
Yeah, and for me, I think that's where the slide comes from and why I've put him in 5 is because I just don't think Cleary can play the full season. There's always something. True. There's always a little niggle here or there. And, he misses games and usually he gets the coverage from Luai. That's kind of thing like, when he's not there, Luai can keep the team ticking along and they play really well. Without him, they don't have that coverage. And that's why I'm saying, if he misses a month or, a couple of weeks here and there, their games I would now expect them to lose a bit more because they're going to have an unproven halves pairing there. So, and that's kind of where I see their slide. Like, I think we've probably hit their range. 2 to 5 is probably where, if they have a good clean season, no one gets hurt and they play really well, they'll finish like 2 and, be competing with Melbourne for that one spot and potentially, talking about, can we have the grand final in September?
Yeah. I'd be happy to clarify on 2 to 5. I think 1 to 4 is fine. Yeah. I think even with all those outs and it's maybe the most in terms of an exodus that we've seen in the 4 years.
Have we finally seen it? Like, has enough people turned over that, they've got to take a little bit of a slide and maybe it's a resetting year and, Jake Cole struggles a little bit and then, he's all class next year as he learns. So, but I just feel like, Cleary's probably going to miss a couple games here and there and the games they'll end up losing. So they're just maybe not going to be as good as they're going to be. Last season, I still think they'll go really good. Come finals, on their day, could go all the way. So, hate to see a 5-peat, but...
We're looking at that 2021 winning grand final team. I think they've lost 9 or 10 from that starting 17, and they had like 7 Origin/international caliber players. So obviously Fish and Luai go this year. We've had Critter and Appy in years gone by. We've had Kikau and Burton go. They're a victim of their own success in that they keep winning. And, other clubs throw the big money at them and, you can't blame some of these players for trying to set up their careers, set up their families for going. Is this the year? I'm still not convinced.
They've got Nathan Cleary in that team.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's a big thing.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting, though, that, their record without him is about 50-50, which is still pretty good in comparison to some of the other teams that lose their halfback and then, it falls off and they're like a 30% win rate. I wonder if that's this year. Like,
okay.
And I hope for Panthers fans and their success that nothing happens to Nathan Cleary and he plays the whole year. But, he's had niggles, he's had the ribs, he's had knees and, shoulders, the whole lot. He took a big shot in this one and was a bit dusty off, but, played the whole game. He's a warrior and you hope he'll play the whole season. But I just wonder if, he misses times. I'm just not sure if they're as strong as they've been with all the turnover. I wonder if it finally hits them. And they finished 5.
Yeah. That's their flaw. He's had more than niggles too. He had his shoulder operated on in the off-season, had the recurrent hammies last year. It's a tough old game, rugby league, and he's one of the more physical sevens getting around as well.
Loves to go to the line.
So the way that he'll take on the line. Not many sevens do. Look, again, you can apply it to insert team here. If you lose your generational player, then fair enough, you may struggle. But it's a good point that you make. Is it not week in, week out that Luai is really missed? Is it the times when Cleary's not playing? Is that when they miss him?
Yeah, and now with both of them, potentially not in the lineup, then what does this team actually look like?
Or you could stay healthy, play 24 games, and
dominate.
And they
win 20
They
plus.
go 5-peat.
Yeah,
that's it.
So 5th for you, 2nd for me, 3rd for Monks. What do the odds look like?
Yes.
They're still second favourite, aren't they, to win the whole thing?
Top's frozen. Yeah, still second, 450, and to keep it in the top 8, the $1.12.
So a whole 4 cents lower than the Melbourne Storm to make the top 8. I think there's no... I can't imagine a world where they miss finals. But maybe there's a world where they're not a top 4 team.
I think unlike most other teams... Like, if Cleary does go down, like, they do have, like, some leadership through the pack as well, like Isaiah Yeo and Liam Martin. Like, that's a good point, more than cover from that perspective.
Yeah, from a leadership perspective, they've got Origin winning guys there, and Yo will get the troops in order, that's for sure. But without Luai, do they have the creativity, I suppose, with say, Talangi and Cole in the halves?
Because you remember, Luai and Sean Sullivan played really well. Like,
they won plenty of games.
Yeah, so I wonder if he ends up being a bigger out than they expect.
Yep.
So it'd be interesting to see what life after he's left kind of looks like.
Life after Luai.
Yep.
All right, South Sydney. They come 16th last year. Their big story is the return of the GOAT, Wayne Bennett. He's contracted until 2027. And this is one of the teams that's really divided opinion here on our panel. Sean, you've got them finishing 8th. Monks, you've got them finishing 13th. And given the injury news in the last 10 days, I've got them getting the wooden spoon.
There you go.
Going to be hard to overcome. Let's talk about ins and outs first, and then we can plead our cases. The ins, Ewan Aitken comes in from the Dolphins. Lewis Dodd comes across from St Helens. Jamie Humphrey's going to have to play some good footy by the looks. He comes across from Manly, as does Josh Schuster and Jaden Sullivan. Outs, big in both in terms of name value and number of outs. Thomas Burgess goes back to the UK. Damien Cook goes to our Dragons. Jacob Gagai goes to UK. Dean Hawkins goes to Parramatta. Lachlan Ilias goes to the Dragons. Tane Milne goes to UK, plus a few others. Name value, obviously, Cookie out is probably the biggest. Ilias,
brother.
Ilias pretty big. Burgess brother. There's a few reasonable outs. The big thing is this casualty ward.
Yeah. Run through it.
So one day at training and they lose both Latrell and Cameron Murray. Cameron Murray will be done pretty much for the year. NRL physio was saying, look, 5-6 months these days, not unrealistic for an Achilles.
Maybe play finals if they make it.
Yeah, we're keen NFL fans. Aaron Rodgers went pretty close to coming back in 4 months. There's a few things to consider, I suppose. The explosivity and the work rate of middle/edge forward in the NRL.
Meters covered is significantly more.
Yeah, exactly. And often just players aren't the same period after an Achilles. And then where they're coming in the season may play into that as well. So could potentially be looking at sort of August, September. I think it's season done for Cameron Murray personally.
Yep.
Latrell Mitchell, hammy. So it's the other side to what he had problems with last year. Moderate grade. They're looking at 6 to 8 weeks. It's a shame. By all accounts, had been training the house down and maybe dropped a few kgs. Does his hammy at training last week. And it looks like Jai Gray will be wearing the 1.
Yep.
Add to that, Cody Walker with a calf. He's going to only miss a few, which is good news for them. Alex Johnston is coming back from an Achilles, so try-scoring record may not happen this season, although he stays healthy for another 18 months and it's all his.
Yep.
Campbell Graham missed all of last year, I think it was in the end, with the sternum. Had a plate put in his sternum. I think Jack Bird's the only other NRL player that's had that done in the past. He broke his hand. He should be back by about round 4, round 5. And Ewan Aitken done a pec. So he'll be out for a while. Plus Lewis Dodd is suspended, so that opens the door for one of the young halves to get the starting job.
Yep.
Likely to line up from a spine perspective, Jai Gray, Jaden Sullivan, Jamie Humphreys, Peter Mamazoulis. Monks, where are they on the ESPN article? That doesn't account for the Latrell and Cody outs.
Yeah.
I think that's the worst spine in the NRL on paper.
I also think Jack Whiten's probably going to play 5'8".
You reckon Whiten to 6?
Yeah, I think they toyed with him in the centres last year and then... they had injuries and struggles, and they played him in 6, and they were better. So they're better in the back half of that year. I feel that's more likely going to be to happen, especially now with all the injuries. I maybe put a lot of props in Wayne to take this team somewhere. I think they're going to have a horrendous start to the season. First month, first 6 weeks is probably going to be terrible.
Very hard for them, yeah.
But that's, of course, when they get all their troops back.
Yep.
So I then thinking they're going to have a pretty good run home. So we'll see. I don't think they'll have much struggles with Origin period. I think many guys are going to get pulled out of that.
Trell, maybe.
Maybe, but he also might have played 1 or 2 games by that point leading into that period. Actually, maybe he get 4. We'll see.
If he plays 4 games, he's playing Origin.
Yeah,
that's my feeling.
True. But we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, I think they again should be better. They still have a decent amount of names, but yeah, I think, like you said, they're super unproven for round one. I'm just seeing that maybe the back half of the year is going to be better.
You'd hope so.
Yeah.
Because there's a world where they start 0-4, 0-5.
Yeah, I'm expecting them to do that as well. So I'm hoping that, Wayne's gone, hey, we're hurt, we're banged up. We're going to, and, maybe jagging a couple games might also give them a bit of confidence. And then we get the troops back and then, make a bit of a run through the middle part of the year while other teams are dealing with more origin stars than you are. So, because I think, I really think Campbell Graham's excellent. Cody Walker.
Also missing the first month.
Yeah, I'm saying when they come back, these guys, when they come back, that's their team, and
there will be a writing ship.
Exactly. There's big risk in there, and that's why I think maybe they come eighth, maybe they get the spoon. That's probably
that's why we've got them such a wide range.
Yeah, we hope that Wayne can sprinkle some magic on them and make them competitive to start the year, but we'll have to see. But super unproven. Saw it with the Dolphins. Wayne can work some magic.
They start at the Dolphins, which is interesting scheduling, and then go to Wollongong to play the Dragons. I think they've got to win one, if not both of those games, because then they go at Cronulla, Penrith at home, Chooks with maybe some troops back. Round 5 might be a bit of a litmus test, and then Cowboys in Perth. Man, if they win one of their first 6 with that cattle, I think they've done well.
Yeah, they'll be happy.
Yeah.
And then hope that they have a good back end of the year. Because by all accounts, these guys are banged up, but they were having an excellent preseason. Latrell looks slim, he looks good. They look ready to fire. I think they can cover Murray pretty well, being a second row. Yes, he's one of the best second rows in the game, but it's a little bit easier position to cover than Latrell, as a comparison.
Well, depth-wise as well. So obviously Cam Murray's pretty hard to replace, but you've got the likes of Jai Arrow, Tallis Duncan, Kean Koloamatangi in your back row. Yeah. If there's anyone to go down from a depth perspective, it's probably not the worst.
Yeah. So I think their pack's okay, but they're going to start. I'm not sure if Josh Schuster's going to play in the centres.
I've got no idea.
Looking at the team photo, he could play in the front row. He's looking a bit chunky old man. So, and if that's the case, then maybe Jack can't play in the halves because he's got to play centre because they just don't have enough guys to play in the back line. So it'd be interesting.
Check out this. So the Zero Tackle season guide, 1 through 17. This is how banged up they've been in the last 10 days. Latrell Mitchell, gone. Alex Johnson, gone. Jack Whiten, maybe play 6. Campbell Graham, gone. Ty Munro, he'll play. Cody Walker, gone. Lewis Dodd, suspended. Davey Moale, Peter Mamazoulis, Tavita Totola. Yeah, they've got a front row. Koloamatangi, Jai Arrow, they're good. Cam Murray, gone. So from that season guide, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of their starting 13 will be unavailable for the foreseeable future.
Yep.
Jamie Humphries, we need to talk about him. He's likely to get the 7. I think Bud Sullivan, if Whiten doesn't get the 6, Jaden Sullivan might get the 6. Saw a bit of him at the Dragons a few years ago. Yep. Tallis Duncan, Sean Kepi, Ewan Aikens on that too, so he won't be available at the start either. Yep. It's such a long season as it is. It's the toughest sport in the world, and I don't think you can go into a season that has the attrition that the NRL does with that kind of luck. And
but you can also
hope for anything more than bottom 4.
Yeah, but you can also lose your first 10 games and then still make the 8. So
yeah, but
you don't want to, but you can.
Yeah, okay. It's technically it's possible, and we might hit a fucking crypto. I don't even know the terms of crypto. Yeah, and we'd all quit our jobs tomorrow. I don't think either of those things are happening. Even with all those injuries, you reckon they can make the top 8?
I think that's a ceiling because, again, yes, it's the first month, maybe 6 weeks. Once they get the troops back, origin period, I think they can win some games. And I think we said last year with the roster they had, they should have been top 4 team, and then they fell off a cliff, got injured, and JD really struggled to coach them. So I'm thinking again. Putting a lot of stock in Wayne Barron at Magic.
I think that's the difference you're saying. That Wayne can turn.
They need to get healthy. Yes.
Yeah.
And I do think they're going to start the season badly, and then hopefully through the mid period and make a run at the end, maybe compete for a top 8 spot.
Maybe Monks is a bit more realistic in where you've got them. Maybe they're not as bad as a Spoon where I've got them. Maybe they're a bit more of a 13th. Odds, please, if you wouldn't mind, for top 8.
If I was being realistic, I'd put Dragons as a Spoon.
Well, Sportsbet doesn't disagree, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Top 8.
Top 8.
$2.63. That's way too short for mine.
Who for?
For the South.
Yeah.
Again, Wayne Bennett magic. That's all they believe in.
That's it. $34
to win the whole thing.
Interesting.
Yeah. They've got the talent on paper when it's healthy. So, if it's healthy, we'll see.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good segue into the team that smoked him in the Charity Shield last weekend, and 2 of the 3 panel members are wearing a big red V on us. They finished 11th last year. Sean, you've got them at 12th. That's actually much higher than what I'd expected you to have them.
Yep.
I've got them 10th. Monk's got them 8th, being a good fan, saying that they sneak into the top.
Well, I think I like what they've done. That's my reflection of I think they've bought well.
Yep.
I just also think the biggest out, the whole team's been built around one dude for the past, decade. Maybe not quite decade, but,
definitely for the last 4 or 5 years, yeah.
Yeah, and he's now gone, and I just don't think they've replaced him.
And they probably haven't, not directly. So Ben Hunt leaves a massive void. Watched Dragons games, put way too much time and emotional sort of investment into them, but essentially carried them definitely for the last 2 seasons, and has been the premier player for the Dragons over the last few years. Mm-hmm. But then also pretty hard to replace Zach Lomax, given he was, Dally M Winger of the Year last year, arguably one of the best outside backs in the comp last year. Then they lose some other handy players like Jack Bird, Max Fairnay, Jesse Marshke, to name a few. But then bought really well, I think. I think trials, they're only trials. They went 2-0. They looked very good against both the Chooks and the Rabbitohs in the trial games. With Damien Cook, Emre Gula, Clinton Gutherson, Valentine Holmes, Lachlan Ilias. Now, is Lockie Ilias Ben Hunt? No one's saying that. No. He's got potential. It's hard coming off a broken leg, but he's looked like he's been okay in the trials.
Another guy that they tried to replace Adam Reynolds with, and he kind of chewed out, spit him out, and he hopefully try to resurrect his career at the Dragons. My concern with their ins is they bought old outside of Ilias and Gula, who aren't really, it's not superstars. You're not guys that you put talent, is like an amazing talent that needs to be unlocked. Like the guys that are, role guys, solid guys that you're hoping might be a bit better than that. But yeah, that's my concern. Is they're bought a little bit old, because I kind of feel like the King and Holmes and definitely on the back end of their career, and I kind of feel like Cook is kind of in that same spot as well.
Well, I think Cookie's the oldest of all those recruits, and they're valid concerns. They are old, but I think it is a win now league, and I think over the next 2 years with those ins, I think the Dragons shouldn't be in a horrendous place. I'm surprised that the bookies have got them at longest odds.
And the only reason I think for that is probably the Haas pairing.
Yeah.
Because I think they've got a good enough name value in the back line, good enough name value in the front pack, but they're another one of those teams that are just so uncertain in the halves. And that combination, that linkage between all 3 phases of the football is so important. And they've got Lachlan Ilias, who's kind of unproven, really wasn't successful at Souths. Kyle Flanagan, kind of the same at the Dogs, came across, supported heavily, I reckon, by Ben Hunt last year, and probably had his best year playing next to Ben Hunt.
Yep, probably.
But, without him, this team has run through Ben Hunt for a long period of time. He's carried them on his back to help avoid a wooden spoon for many years. Without him, I can see why they're, worried. I can actually see that, maybe Flanagan ends up being 7 and they have to play Gutherson 6 to try and get a more veteran, try to unlock something there. And, I don't think that's the best value getting out of Clint Gutherson.
Yeah, I hope that
because following that theory, then he can have Salone go back and play 1, and you try to grow him because he was kind of out the door a year ago, and then they kind of got him to stay. And I'm just not sure if he's going to be happy long term on the wing.
I think he'll be okay for now. He reminds me a bit of Xavier Savage. Maybe
I agree.
Yeah, maybe not quite as explosive as Savage, but relatively similar comparison. Yeah. They've been trialled with the one on their back. Obviously, elite wingers because of speed. Defensively, maybe lacking slightly. And then Gutho comes in, and the teams look the most structured that they've looked in quite some time.
Yeah. I reckon
maybe since Darius Boyd was wearing one.
Yeah, I agree. They've improved the one spot, or they've improved the 9. I'm just not sure if they've gone forward at 6, and they've definitely gone backwards at 7.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's fair enough, and that's no hate against Lachlan Ilias, but Ben Hunt pretty hard to replace. What about the outside backs? Matt Fiernay, Val Holmes, Moses Sully, Tyrell Sloan. I think
no complaints.
Centres wise, that's probably a top 5 centre pairing in the NRL. Val Holmes will come across. Losing Zach Lowe makes you lose your goal kicker as well. Pretty much like for like there. And Sully started to get some consistency about his game too.
That's going to be big. Well, that's big for him because otherwise he's rocks and diamonds. So.
Yeah, that's what he used to be. And I think the last 2 seasons we're actually starting to see more consistent, big-bodied centre.
Yep.
Like we also said, dying breed, the 108 kilo centre. There's not heaps of them getting around anymore.
Some of the Polynesian boys are exceptions though.
Massive questions around 6 and 7. Cole Flanagan, Lachlan Ilias. Much like, say, the Titans, Newcastle come to mind. Unproven half pairing.
Wouldn't surprise. I'm pretty sure in those rumours for Dylan Brown and the Dragons are in that conversation as well. I'm pretty sure I saw that connection.
Big get if they could get him. But alas, that's not going to affect us in 2025. Yep. So Gutho, Flanagan, Ilias, Cook. Where's our ESPN article got this ranked there in terms of a spine? It's probably middle of the pack. 11th. Massive prove-it years for both Flanagan and Ilias. Ilias coming off a pretty nasty tib-fib fracture as well. So good to see him playing lots of minutes in the preseason, getting a run in the legs, and it'll be interesting to see how they go against the Dogs next weekend. Pack is interesting. I think quite strong in the back row, maybe middles lacking slightly. Toby Couchman, Damien Cook, Emre Gula's impressed in the trials. Jaden Sewer, Luciano Leilua, Jack DeBellin. I think 11, 12, 13 is probably the strongest part of this team.
Yep.
Definitely a reasonable pack. Probably not elite. Probably not in the
another
worst
team
3.
That's like front rowers, question marks. Trying to replace guys that they've moved on. Gula's, has his moments, but also very young player still trying to learn and grow, and probably not going to play huge minutes for as well. He's definitely a massive human being. So we'll have to see.
Bench, we've probably got Jacob Little, Tom Eisenhuth, Raymond Faitala, Mariner, Hamasele. Pretty unlucky for Jacob Little that they go out and sign Cookie. I suppose he would have known towards the back end of last year anyway. He was actually one of the really bright sparks for the Dragons last year, playing regular minutes at 9.
Yeah, and there's been those kind of, can we get both of them on the park? And, where would you slide Cookie into?
Cookie probably has the ability still to play 80 minutes. I think he's about 33 these days. Does Little come in and chop in, chop out at 9 and play a 13 role and give JDB or something a bit of a breather? Or are they just paying overs for 2 halfbacks, for 2 hookers now?
Yeah. I kind of fear that Hookie gets forced into a role he doesn't fit. Like play halfback,
like centre for New South Wales.
Yes, he's not going to say no to it, but this team. I hate for an injury to one of those guys in 6 and 7, but best. If you're trying to get the best players in your clubhouse on the pitch, you're like, well, I've got Jacob Little on the bench. I put him in 9, and then where can I slide Cookie into? And I just worry that he's going to end up playing a bit of 7.
Yeah, well, that's where an injury to Cookie, touch wood, doesn't happen. At least there's good coverage there. My concern is Gutho getting an injury.
Well, I feel like they can cover him so long. I just don't think the halves is where I'm worried.
Because of depth.
Depth, yeah. And I think those guys you just bought might end up sliding in and playing in the halves just so they can get other guys in there. Because, if you move Gutherson and Cook, then you can break Jacob and Sloan can slide around. It's easier to find a winger than it is find another 5'8" kind of thing.
Half depth is an issue. Looking at their top 30, and also some of the guys that are unavailable, like Corey Allen, with an ACL. If you've got two fullbacks in there, you can move Gutho or someone to play 6. It's a bit of a different story. Half value is going to be difficult. Half depth, I should say, is going to be hard if one of the halves go down.
Yeah. Again, another team that's probably going to be fighting for a chance to be in the 8. But I feel like of all the teams, they're like one injury away from key kind of spot where you just go, fuck, what are we going to do now?
That was the last few seasons with Ben Hunt.
Yeah, exactly. Ben Hunt played really well. But without him, it's just the question marks.
Monks, you've got him sneaking into the top 8. Is that legitimately analytics, we can get him in there, or is that because you're thinking with your heart, not your head?
Definitely thinking with my heart.
There's nothing wrong with that. I've been the coward at the table and not pushed them up there, just trying to, stay relatively analytical.
Yeah. I think anywhere from 8 through 12 makes a lot of sense for them. And, finishing 11th last year, that's kind of where you think the team is. And we'll just have to see if they can be successful without Ben Hunt going forward.
They were so close to playing finals last year as well. They really, really bottled it in the last few rounds. But anyways.
And scapegoated Ben Hunt in the process.
Yeah, poor fella. I actually wish him all the success. I'm not a Broncos fan at all. In fact, up there in my top most hated teams. But Ben Hunt, thank you for your service.
To win a grand final, and you probably clear all the misgivings from, what was it, 2015 when he dropped the ball?
Off the kickoff.
I think that'd be a great way to end his career if they could make it happen. And
part of me is almost like, fuck, Lomax might be the bigger miss because he's coming into the prime of his career.
Yep.
Looked like the best outside back in the game last year. We always knew, and we've been preparing ourselves for many years for the departure eventually of Ben Hunt, and was never getting any younger. In some regards, replacing Lomax is harder. Luckily,
Haynes is a bit of a
reasonable like for
but
life.
Age is
just
a question. Yeah.
All right, we're on the home stretch, boys. Let's do the Sydney Roosters. They lost a prelim final last year. They come 3rd, and we've all faded them down. Sean, you've got them hanging in the top 8 and 7th. I've gone as low as 12th, and Monks, you've gone 10th. Ins and outs are probably the most lopsided of these from the whole night. Yeah. Chad Townsend in, Toby Rodwell comes up from their juniors, and then outs. Satili Tupanua, Terrell May, retired Michael Jennings, Dylan Napa, Luke Keary, JWH go to Super League. Both the Joeys, Joey Manu, Joseph Suali'i go to Rugby Union. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of their starting 17 last year, plus some guys that have played a lot of footy for the club.
Yep.
Gonna be hard to replace.
Very hard to replace.
Outside backs look like James Tedesco, Daniel Tupou, Billy Smith, Mark Nawakana-Tawasi.
Good job there.
Yeah, I'm sure that wasn't it. But anyways, he comes across from rugby. He's like a half Fijian type of throbber. Should be all right. Dom Young. Outside backs, I don't have any dramas.
Yeah,
I think with
still
Teddy,
talent there. Teddy had a great resurgent year last year. Not having to play as much Origin, I think, really helped him actually. So, we'll see how he kind of slots in. Be interested. I don't want to say another team that, their best player, Teddy, needs to slide in and play in the halves, but I think they'll be all right, at least in the interim.
I think they've got other options, much differently to the Dragons that we've just sort of uncovered a bit of half depth issues. Sandon Smith, Chad Townsend will be their half pairing for the first half of the year. They'll have Connor Watson play 9, and then from a depth perspective, maybe a little bit deeper at the half position. I could see Connor Watson playing with 6 on his back.
Yeah, because they've got the cheese there as well, you got to remember. So
but same time frame as well.
Yeah.
In that, Sam Walker.
Yes, he's going to miss the first half.
More than that, it's Sam Walker, Brandon Smith. They're really only coming back for finals if they're making a run for finals. Pretty strong, I think, in the pack.
Yeah, the pack hasn't gotten any worse.
Yeah, that's right. Spencer Lemieux's suspended for the first couple of rounds, but he shouldn't be too far off.
All the rumours about him wanting to go back to Penrith, but I think Penrith are kind of at the point where it's like, we can't pay you. kind of stuck at a salary cap currently.
Come back and play for 75 grand. Let's go. One of the best middles in the game last year, Spencer Leniu. Paired up with Lindsay Collins. That's maybe the best 1-2 punch in middle forwards in the game. Nat Butcher, Angus Crichton, Victor Radley. Looking at that pack, I'm reassessing having them at 12th. That's a fucking good pack.
Yeah, I think the pack's good. Again, they're another one of those teams. Pack's good. Back line's good. Just need that connection through the middle. I do like they went out and got Chad Townsend. I think that's a great coverage. And you know what kind of halfbacks do in that system. Cronk's kind of in and out and around that club depending on how their relationship is. But if he's in there having conversations, and I think Townsend will be able to fit in and fit that mould of what they want out of the halfback really well. So I think they've got good enough, and then we'll have to see what Smith can do as a young fella coming into the squad. And how that kind of grows there. But, I think you can't doubt the talent-wise there, which is why I've kept them in the 8. Because I can see them, I still think they've got more than enough talent to be competitive in a lot of games. Yeah,
I think you've, very justifiable in having them 7th. Like, looking at them, particularly 1 through 13, you're like, geez, it's a strong team still on paper. I'm starting to think, what in the fucking sombrero's going on here that they can lose Manu Suoli'i, Keary, May, etc., and still be that strong 1 through 13.
There was such an interesting team last year as well because they weren't as banged up. Radley kind of was in and out depending on who he high shot that week. But they, no one was really talking about them, which was weird for the Roosters. And they just snuck along. And where did they finish? They finished third. So
lost the prelim.
They're still really good
from the grand final.
And yes, they've got a bunch of outs of good talent there as well. But guys, they knew they were losing as well, and I think they've covered well enough. I think Walker's going to be a big out, but I think they've got good enough coverage in Townsend compared to some of those other teams. So I still think they're going to be good. I still think they're a top 8 team.
Chad Townsend, you know what you're going to get. A game manager, not an electric 7.
Which
but
probably needs to be in that squad.
Yeah, so. I think so. Veteran leadership. Sandon Smith's maybe the smoky. What are we going to see out of him? We've definitely seen glimpses when he's been in the team before.
But to play 6 and then just have to be a running, you just play kind of natural game. Less pressure than some of those other halves we've been talking about.
Yeah,
they really need to step up.
Yeah,
it's a perfect spot. Like for a young fella coming in the team, that's a perfect spot.
Yep, agreed. Monk's odds, if you wouldn't mind, there for them. I feel like they'll be long-ish to win the whole thing, but to make the 8 not that long. They're only $20 to win the whole thing. Yeah. That's what, 6th.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5th.
I think it is.
I think you need to scroll up. Melbourne and Penrith.
Yeah,
7th. That's right where you've got them.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting last year. Trent Robinson as well, being second longest tenured coach currently. His job was on the line. There was a lot of talk about it, and then they still finished 3rd. So I think he's probably bought enough time. I don't think he's on the way out, but I think he's a good enough coach, and they have a good enough system there. Like, yes, they only really won premierships when Cronk showed up, but I still think they're going to be a good quality squad.
Yeah, I suppose the couch experts' knock on Trent Robinson is he's always
they haven't won the grand final.
well, yeah, he has won one.
Yeah,
and they've always had
recently.
What have you done for me recently?
I think the normal sort of knock is, he's always had this superstar top 30 and, they can't beat Penrith, they can't beat Melbourne.
Yes.
He's not actually that good a coach, which I disagree with. I'm just sort of...
Yeah, I think he's a good enough coach.
Yeah.
But he might get outcoached by some of the big names.
Yeah, I don't think he's Craig Bellamy.
But he's
still pretty good.
He's still he's better than some of the other coaches going around the league.
Odds?
Yes.
So 20.
So they were
20 to win the whole thing.
20 to win, and they were where were we? $2 to make.
Bang on, yeah. So maybe that 7 to 10th is right about right. Maybe I've been a little bit unders on them, and looking again at that starting 1 through 17, maybe I am a little bit too low. I don't think we mentioned the bench. Likely to have White, Wong, Butcher, one other. They're much like South, they'll be an interesting team come Tuesday night, given the amount of outs and injuries. Mm-hmm. All right, let's wrap this thing up with maybe one of the more interesting teams to talk about this year. The West Tigers coming off repeat spoons. Benji Marshall, a lot of pressure on him. None of us have got him making the top 8, but none of us have got him getting the spoon.
Slight improvement.
Sean, you've gone 15. I've gone 14. Monks, you've gone 16. It's around about where we were last year. I had them getting the spoon. They got the spoon. You guys weren't much higher than that last year. I feel like the ins, they have to improve. Jerome Luai, the big one, but also
last year.
but also Terrell May, Jarrell Skelton, Sunia Taruva, Royce Hunt, Jack Bird. Yes, Taruva, Skelton, Hunt, Bird aren't elite guys. They do get 2 elite guys in Luai and May, and those other guys are serviceable first graders.
Yep.
Isaiah Papali'i is a big loss. John Bateman, interesting to go back to the discussion before. Well, based off 23-24, John Bateman, maybe it's not the biggest loss. No. Based off 19-20 Raiders, John Bateman, yeah, maybe it is a big loss. I think Otukamanu is a big loss, him going down to Melbourne. David Clemmer is listed. Justin Olam is listed at the moment. They're facing maybe medical retirements, maybe getting poached.
Yeah.
A bloke that is out to start the season or most of the season is Brent Natum.
Clem to the Dragons is almost as certain. It's just the Tigers won't let him go. So I think there's a deal in place for that to happen, which would be good for the Dragons. They would like a bit of a name value in the
We're just talking about middles,
but they have let him go, and Justin Olam looking likely he's going to be medically retired, which is unfortunate for him.
Yeah, not that far off, being a Dally M Centre of the Year. Justin Olam, taking souls at Melbourne. He's not that old either. He'd be sort of early 30s, I think.
What's interesting in the outs that might be a bit more surprising is Aiden Caesar. I think he might be a slightly more interesting out because he played semi-well last year. Yep. And he, for some of those clubs that might be trying out young guys in halves, after a month might want to change direction, might pick up the phone and say, hey, do you want to come back? Because of guys that have gone over there that might come back, and if we didn't talk about Kiri, whether he potentially could want to come back and try something. I could see Aiden Caesar getting called up by a team that might be wanting to change direction and getting a gig somewhere.
Yeah, they cleaned out house, didn't they? Because Jaden Sullivan goes as well. So half depth, if anything happens to Luai, may be a little bit of an issue. Although one of the Whānau boys, I can't remember if it's Sione or Latu, is a half, I'm fairly sure.
Okay.
1679, fully healthy is good. Jerome Buller, I should say. Lachlan Galvin was one of the most improved players last year. Yep. Jerome Luai, we know what he can do. Uppy Coruscant, we know what he can do. What did ESPN have, 4th or something? They had him pretty high. Scroll down. 6th they had him. So
it'd be interesting to see.
Highly rated.
Yeah, how they play. Like, I kind of think that Luai is going to be 7 in name. I think he might end up playing more of his natural game, and they'll let Lachlan and Gavin kind of take over a little bit more. Maybe growth. Maybe
problem is Galvin's good, like true out and out 6, running the ball kind of player as well.
So I think that relationship's going to be interesting. See how that plays out over the first month and how they kind of find their natural kind of chemistry and what works for them as a squad. You think Luai's going to come in and take, probably set the standard or the direction to start with, but then you might work out what works best for them and what he knows and works best for him. And we'll see. But, a lot of this success of West is probably tied to what he's going to do. So, yeah, again, knock on he's healthy and he's good for the Tigers going forward because I don't think they're that bad. I didn't think they were that bad last year either. And I think they've got more, they've got a bit more name in there as well. And they got the 2 brothers too, which were highly talented. Like, I just see them being better. So that's why I've got them slightly better. I just don't think they'll be fighting for the top 8 yet. I don't think they're kind of like the Bulldogs were last year or the year before, just kind of raced up there. I just don't think they've kind of made that huge leap, but we'll see.
No. I was going to use that comparison as well. They're kind of like where the Bulldogs were before they, when they signed all the, they just needed, they'll just need this season to build that chemistry, and the next season, they'll jump up.
And the other thing is, like, if they take it a little bit to work out that chemistry, maybe they struggle a little bit. You know, they win on a couple games for them in the first 6. You know, how long does Benji last? Like, you know, they love to turn their coaches on. They already had him on the hot seat from day one last year, and we'll see how much leash he gets. For his sake, I hope they give him enough.
The season, for me, like I feel like you bring in all these guys. You got a guy.
A lot of them have come because they want to play for Benji. They know.
Yeah,
Benji
they want to. They're thinking about not just 2025, but they're thinking about 26, 27. They know that Lachlan Galvin's going to get better. They know that Jareen Buller's going to get better. They know these Whānau boys are going to get better. Like, if they keep this group together, maybe they're not playing top 8 this year, but maybe 26, 27, they'll be there or thereabouts.
Put their spine in place that you can see the direction.
Yeah.
And then, go out and get a couple more guys that you need. You know, a big name centre, big name second rower, and then you've got your core guys, your squad, and then you make a run.
If I was a Tigers fan, we've suffered enough as Dragons fans, but glad we're not Tigers fans, this would be the most excited I would be going into a season in the past 4 or 5.
Yeah, since Benji played for them, I think it's definitely a time to be really happy.
Outside backs, Jarrell Skelton, Stafford Toa, Adam Dewey, Sunia Taruva. Taruva was a try-scoring machine at Penrith last year. I don't know if that's going to be the same case this year. Dewey coming off the back-to-back ACLs, wishing him a good run of health. By all accounts, likely to play in the centres with Galvin and Luai, likely to wrap up the half pairing. Front row gets boosted with Terrell May coming across. Talon Da Silva will start with 9 because Appy's suspended till round 2, I think it was. Royce Hunt, Samuela Fainu, Alex Seyfarth, Alex Twal, likely.
Clem also might fit in there depending if he plays before they move him.
We've got him out at the moment.
But he might fit into that, which is, again, more a name, I guess, at this point in his career, but a big guy that can give you a few ups.
Bench likely to be Pole, Bird, Fainu. I think they're a year away from being a year away. I think they're definitely going in the right direction. Definitely a bit to be excited about as a Tigers fan. And I don't think they're the worst team on paper. And this is the first year that I've looked at them and thought that in the last few years.
Yeah, and it's kind of like you want to see improvement this year, get excited. Next year, push for a top 8 spot. Following year, can we be a top 4 team? Like, have we built? That's kind of the trajectory we feel like they're on.
You've got an article there from this weekend, Monks, regarding Clemmer. What are we saying? Dragons have been in dispute with Francis Molo, that's right.
Molo as well, yep.
Yeah, so we didn't even talk about Molo before, but there's likely that Molo will be out the door. That means it's likely the Dragons will start the season with the top 31 unless they can strike a deal to release Molo. And then they're pursuing David Clemmer. Can you get me an age on David Clemmer too? He'd be in his 30s. I just wonder if he's closer to 35. I reckon 33 would be about it.
31.
Yeah, younger. So he's one of those guys that...
Yeah, he looks 35 at 18.
So. That's right. So, look, but probably past his prime, but still, I wouldn't mind signing him for 2 years as a Dragons person.
Well, that's been our whole off-season.
Just signing guys that are 30, 31 for 2 years.
Yep.
And worry about the future of the club in 2028.
Yep.
All right, anything else to add?
No, I think that's it. Las Vegas, by all accounts, was very good.
45,000, was that the official crowd?
I thought the crowd was a bit interesting because it was patchy, which maybe generally means that the ticket prices in some areas may be a bit more expensive than expected, because usually you just fill up from the bottom and work your way up until it gets empty. But if the ticket prices are too much, then you kind of scatter over what works. So I think it was an improvement. It was good. We'll have to see how it goes. Some interesting interview notes there from Peter V'landers as well. I'll let people check that meme out. It was pretty funny. I think it's a good start of the year.
Footy's back. Obviously, it's good to be accountable and have some of the shitter takes, like Cronulla coming 11th, and then also giving ourselves pats on the backs when we've gone, 8th, 8th, 9th, and the 10th.
We all had Souths like around 4 last year, so
but then as well, you can't account for injuries, and then sometimes you can't account for it. We saw the Warriors and the Knights a couple of years ago, exceeded expectations. Saw the Bulldogs last year.
There's always one team that
it's very hard to get it the whole way through. reasonably close. So we'll see. We'll take our L's, we'll take our W's. We won't know until September. We're happy that footy's back. And
very much so.
Yeah, got a little bit of a sneak peek. Maybe, that's a bit on the nose doing a season preview after we've seen a couple of games. Definitely, I changed my tune on the Raiders after seeing them play today. And then, Team List Tuesday into next weekend will be interesting times. Normally, we cover a lot of sports. So, this time of the year, it's a lot of league, sprinkle a bit of Aussie rules footy in there. NFL Combine's on. NBA's getting saucy. We talk about EPL. We talk about fights. We talk about everything normally. But tonight, league special. We're back in a couple of weeks. This is On The Esky. Hit that subscribe button if it's the first time that you've been here. And we'll see you next time on The Esky.
Bye.
Bye.
I need to piss.